late March, here in Hammond, Indiana, at the Strachan Van Til Studios. We are out on Indianapolis Boulevard on AM 1230, WJOB 104.7 FM. Also, I didn't go over and fix the TuneIn app. I'm so sorry. Also on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube in video. You could catch us on your phone. Let's take a look at a couple things going on around the area. And for you folks in Munster, I don't know if this is good news or bad news, but just from speaking to people in the community, it will be taken as bad news in some areas. Remember Sopko and Pfister, Fopko and Sister? Hey, slow down, Contractor Steel Company. Well, actually, he's not going too fast. I won't say anything. He's going fine. It just looks fast. Big truck when a massive steel hauler comes by about 15 feet from you. And even if they're going at a regular speed, it just feels fast. All right, so Judge Marissa McDermott, whom we talked about yesterday on the morning show as I had Mayor Tom McDermott on the show with me, she ruled against those attorney general of the state of Indiana who was suing to get $851,000 out of Fopko and Sister. Or really was it out of the insurance company for Fopko and Sister? And they, so I guess the school and the Indiana Attorney General does not win that money out of them and or their insurance companies. There are other suits going on, civil suits to try to get money out of Fopko and Sopko and Pfister. But this one is not a win, as Lake's civil judge, hey, what's up? Thanks for peeping. Says no way. You guys know this story? Most of you do, unless you're driving across the Borman and you happen to pick up 1230 AM or 104.7, or you just happen to be dinking around on the internet and you catch our show here. And Sopko and Pfister were the superintendent and the assistant superintendent for a long time in Munster. The Munster, of course, kind of the more well-to-do town around here. And over the years, Munster went down and down financially on the school system, while at the same time, Sopko and Pfister were able to take pretty large bonuses. And if I remember correctly, it was mostly by changing a decimal point. And they wound up with these bonuses, $851,000, I guess is what they total it to. And that's the part that the Indiana Attorney General is saying, no, they shouldn't have taken that. I guess the problem, or one of the problems, may have been in the courtroom, is that the Indiana Attorney General may have missed the statute of limitations on some of this stuff, as some of this stuff I think went back to like early 2000s, maybe even late 90s. And by the time they kind of caught up with it, I don't know, it was maybe 2-3 years ago. And here you go. It's too late, baby, is basically what it is. So I know a lot of people were trying to get money out of Sopko and Pfister, and it looks like, at least at this stage, that's not going to happen. What about Highland? Going over here to Highland, right next to Munster on Ridge Road. What do you guys think about the resolution? Well, first of all, there was the rally in Main Square Park on Saturday by some of the young people around here, basically rallying against guns. And the Lake County Council, was it last month, came out with a resolution basically to say, hey, listen, we need to do something about guns. Of course, the county comes out with that resolution, but still there are these gun shows on county property at the Lake County fairgrounds, in which there's a lot of people that want to, quote, close the gun show loophole by doing something about the gun shows, but evidently not a lot has been done, and you can still go out there and buy a gun. So Highland comes out and says, hey, you know what, let's do something about, machine guns and big guns, and let's have a common sense laws is what they're looking for. Also, who is on the national stage. He grew up just a little bit up Indianapolis Boulevard, right where I'm standing here, to the north here in East Chicago. And then when he got near high school, he moved over to Maryville, and he was a basketball player there. And I forget where he went to college, but he wound up going in and being in management in San Antonio. And next thing you know, he says, "You know what? I'll be the coach." And now it turns out he may be one of the best NBA coaches in the history of NBA coaches. And his name is Greg Popovich, local guy. I think San Antonio kind of adopted him. And he came out yesterday, and we're going to play this in just a little while. If Jimmy got the email last night, when I get in the studios, it's a clip in which Popovich basically says we need to rethink guns entirely, and maybe we need to get rid of them, basically. It comes out on the same day that a former justice, a Supreme Court justice, says, hey, listen, we need to repeal the Second Amendment. So I know that some of you gun owners, this is like the number one thing you didn't want to hear is this kind of talk. I think President Trump this morning tweeted like, this is crazy. That'll never happen as long as Republicans control the Supreme Court. I was unaware that actual guns and killing people was actually a partisan issue, but evidently it is according to the president. I hope that isn't you, that it's just a measure of safety that if you're carrying one on your ankle right now, that it isn't a Democrat-Republican thing. But if it has to, it has to. That's just how it is. We paint the world as it is, not as we wish it were. So we're going to play a little bit of that with Popovich. How about the woman in the Gary fire? I saw on some news reports, I believe the Times and the Post are reporting this, and so is Channel 2 and 5. And that is that the woman in the Gary fire, you guys remember this, 2 kids, ages 2 and 4. She was not in the apartment, evidently. She had gone down to see the maintenance guy. Hey, what's up? Nice car. And nice beep. She had gone down to see the maintenance guy and was hanging out with him. And the kids took a blanket, put it in the oven, and then they felt bad about it. Thought they were going to get in trouble for the fire that was starting, and then they went and hid in a closet. And next thing you know, there's a big fire. The 6-year-old runs down to get help, and then he gets caught 1 floor down and tries to go up the stairs, if you've seen that horrific video, to get his little brother and sister. And then he can't do it, and the 2 die. Another unidentified 8-year-old boy jumps from the 4th floor into a waiting crowd that was holding a blanket and was able to catch him, and evidently he's okay. But the woman is charged with child neglect. And if you follow the story, reports are that she kind of saw the smoke and just walked out of the building and went to McDonald's. Now, it's difficult to, understand how anybody would react in a situation. Hey, thanks for beeping! Would react in a situation like that, but you get the feeling that folks aren't going to put that in high esteem when your kids are basically burning to death on the 4th floor that you leave and go to McDonald's. So it is what it is. She has some charges. She'll go into, I think, to domestic courts, and there'll be juvenile courts, and we'll see where it goes from there. All right, what else is going on around the region? I don't know. I think I'm done. That's enough. That's enough heavy lifting for the day. I'm going to walk out on Indianapolis Boulevard and just enjoy this. It's a cloudy morning. You can't see any stars, but it's not that cold. Are you guys getting tired of just being cold all the time? We had like one day where it got up to 60 degrees and it was sunny. And then all of a sudden you stop wearing the winter coat and you're just going in and out with the sweater. And then you're like, dang, it's cold. And then you realize, you go, I'm tired of being cold. Seems like it's kind of hanging around. You're going to get some mid-20s stuff over the weekend. It's going to be high in the 30s. It's going to be just like a January cold day. And here we are already in spring and on the edge of April. So I don't know what to tell you, huh? You are not alone. You are not alone in a lot of ways. First of all, we're here, WJOB. Doesn't really matter how you get us. If you get us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, or you listen on the radio, or, oops, as soon as I fix the TuneIn app, you'll be able to get that. I forgot about that yesterday, and you guys need to call once in a while, like in the middle of the day, while I'm just sitting here doing nothing. Like, Jed, go down there and fix that. And you know what? That's up to Mulaney and Ryan Walsh. You got to let me, one of us, when you guys come down, I'll show you how to fix that today. We fixed something down there the other day, and I think I just forgot to plug it back in. But you are not alone. Did you hear Chuck pull in yesterday? I started to say something about, hey, what's going on at the national level? And I don't know as if it's just that Chuck didn't want to talk about it because it wasn't a positive thing for the things that he stands for, or if there is a more genuine layer to this. But he's like, man, I just don't even follow what's going on at the national level, and because it's always basically something. And I started to think about that. I'm like, how many people are plugged out of what is happening at the national level? I don't think you can. I mean, you can't go to the gas station without putting gas in your car and seeing some news or some sports. You can't open your phone and go to your Facebook or your Twitter or your email without getting some semblance that there's something going on at the national level and weird stuff with Trump. It's always interesting, by the way. You can't turn on the radio, you can't turn on the TV without getting some of that. Even if it's local news, it's sprinkled with things that are going on at the national level. Even though it may be very difficult, I'm just wondering how many people would like to. I don't think it's possible. I think we're all in right now. It's just like joining Facebook or Twitter and having a phone. Somebody's following you. They have all this data about you, so you better behave. All right, guys, I'm going to go inside. I'm Jim Delo out here wearing some Hassey Construction safety gear along Indianapolis Boulevard, doing a radio show and a TV show. Ryan Walsh just walking in front of the camera there, if you guys saw that. And the also sponsored by the Ironworkers Local 395. They're all getting up. They're gearing up to build some bridges this summer construction season. Oh, I wanted to remind you guys that starting on Monday, hey, what's up? Thanks for beeping. If you're going right here, I'm standing on Indianapolis Boulevard at 7100, 7200. If you go, let's see, what is that? That's 100 and, I don't know, 81. Maybe if you go to about 25 blocks south, maybe 30 blocks. It'd be more than that. All right, let's say 35 blocks south. You're going to run into a big bridge that goes over some tracks going in Highland. And that is, maybe 35. All right, let's say 24 blocks south of here, now that I added up. You would run into that big bridge. Well, they're going to put it down to one lane starting on Monday, and that is going to cause extreme havoc on Indianapolis Boulevard and north-south traffic. We've got some other stuff starting on Monday. I'll review that in a second. All right, guys. I'm Jim Delo, AM 1230, WJOB 147, Hammond, Indiana. Also on Facebook, Twitter, and at YouTube video, the voice and face of the region. Ironworkers Local 395, through their contractor employers, the Northwest Indiana Contractors Association, are the workers you see building Northwest Indiana. They are the craftsmen building your schools, hospitals, malls, steel mills, and manufacturing plants. They support local charities, including Tradewinds and Chasing Dreams, and they coach your kids after work and on the weekend. They live, work, and contribute to all of our local communities' economic growth. To find out more about these organizations, visit ironworkers395.com or nwicontractors.org.
What gets you fired up when you think about college? Explore your roar at Purdue University Northwest. With 2 exciting campuses in Hammond and Westville, more than 70 areas of study, and NCAA Division II athletics, Purdue Northwest offers it all at an excellent value. Learn more at pnw.edu and apply today. That's pnw.edu. Join the pride at Purdue Northwest.
I want to be like the pretty people on my TV.
Now you can.
All I need are gleaming white teeth.
We can help you.
Can you find the right dentist for me?
Dr. Andy Coulteritis, he does cosmetic dental.
Will he hurt me?
No, he's gentle.
I'm terrified of pain.
He's the kindest in the land.
He sounds great. Could you repeat his name?
Dr. Andy Coulteritis, 219-836-1111.
Thanks.
Fill your garage with your dream car during the Honda Dream Garage Spring event going on now at Napleton's River Oaks Honda. They're Northwest Indiana's destination for new and certified pre-owned Hondas. Napleton's River Oaks Honda has a huge selection of brand new and certified pre-owned Civics, Accords, CRVs, and Pilots. Come find out why you always get our best deal at River Oaks Honda. As always, Indiana residents pay Indiana sales tax right off 8094 on Torrance Avenue or online at riveroakshonda.com.
Napleton, second to none since 1931.
Loyalty, hard work, self-reliance, genuineness, and gratitude. These values make us who we are. They're here in Indiana, and they're here in Indiana's grocery store, Strachan Van Til. We're proud to serve the people who have put us at the heart of their neighborhoods. We're dedicated to the Indiana values we share and to providing an experience that will make you dedicated to us. Strachan Van Til is Indiana's grocery store, and we're Indiana made.
All right. Pretty good. Pretty neat. All right. Pretty good. Pretty neat. Hey, welcome to Wednesday, March 28th of 2018. What's that? 3/18/18. No, wait, 3/28/18. And La Carajara Baharia. Yeah, sorry about that. I have a number of people that aren't real happy with me about not having the TuneIn app running, and that is my fault. We put a piece of equipment on Monday that is basically connects us to Arbitron now. So well, whatever. That's on me. I'll get that fixed soon. Hey, let's take a look at traffic. 294 around the city looks pretty good. 80 going east and west, that looks good. The Bishop Ford is lighter than normal. Just not a lot on it right now. So is the Randian, Skyway Toll Road, Borman, I-65, US 30, and Klein Avenue. Hey, those are all moving along pretty well. Got a little bit of southbound I-65 area, and that is from the construction. It looks like they did some overnight stuff. Overnight, southbound, south of Route 2. So I don't even think it's showing up on the map up there. But it is south. It's basically between 2 and 10. Just got a little bit of slowdown. That shouldn't be that big a deal. All right, traffic brought to you by Napleton River Oaks Honda, proudly serving Northwest Indiana with superior customer service. Let's take a look at what's going on in terms of the weather. It's 41 degrees here at the Strachan Van Til Studios, and don't forget the Strack Flyer comes out today, and you get shank portion ham at 49 cents a pound. Also, you can get a 5-pound bag of Idaho or red potatoes for 2 of them for $3 right now if you're looking at eating some potatoes coming up. And you can also get a 12-pack of Coors Light or Bud Light for $15.99 each. So why not, huh? And partial sunshine a little bit later today. So kind of cloudy early, and then maybe it gets a little bit better later. Let's call it a high in the mid-50s, 55 here at the Vac and Strand Till Studios. It'll be your high, and it should be nice, actually, in the afternoon when it gets sunny for about 20 minutes, and then it's high, it's in the mid-50s, so we got that to look forward to. Hey, tonight, 41, a little rain late, and then tomorrow, high only in the mid-40s, periods of rain and breezy, So you get the idea, just kind of all over the place. It's going to go from 55 and sunny this afternoon to tomorrow morning at about 34 degrees and raining while I'm standing out there on Indianapolis Boulevard. You go into Good Friday, partly sunny and chilly and a high of 49. And then all the way by Easter, it's going to be a cold Easter. Let's say mostly cloudy and chilly and say a high of in the upper 30s. And it'll get all the way down into the low 20s in some areas overnight. So got a cold Easter coming our way. Hey, pursue your passion with a degree from Aurora University Online. Choose fully online programs in business, computer science, and more. To learn more, visit online.aurora.edu. And there you go. Also, weather is brought to you by our good friends at Laborers Local 41, of which I am a proud alum of that fine union. All right, in terms of the markets, what a turnaround yesterday, if you guys were watching that, is that it was up most of the day, a couple hundred points, maybe even 300, and then it wound up diving late as just a change in mood. I forget exactly what it was. It was down 344 yesterday to 23,857. Facebook got another spankety wank and crank shank yesterday, as it was down. Well, let me give you a percentage-wise. Let's see. We'll go with, well, no, they're not. All right, I know how to do this. Give it in percentages. All right, percentage. Facebook was down, let's see. It was down. I thought I had it on here, but it was down 5% yesterday again. So it was up at 190 or so, and now it's at 150. A little bit above 150. The markets opening today are really doing nothing, as the Dow is up 8 and S&Ps are actually unchanged. That never happens overnight, by the way. Let's take a look at some of the stuff happening around here. Before we do that, we're going to do some sports with Ryan Walsh in just a couple of minutes here, but longtime caller here, his son is the Post-Tribune Swimmer of the Year, and that is Ethan Chirilla. His dad, Denny, went to Morton, and I believe Denny's dad went to Morton. And the kid, that's a region family, by the way, the Chirillas. You spend a whole bunch of time in Hessville, and then you move to Highland. You make the big jump over the Borman, and then you go into Highland. And then maybe Ethan, when he grows up, he'll live in Crown Point, and then all bets are off. Then the next generation moves to the north side of Chicago. Anyways, ever since last month's swimming state meet, Highlands, Ethan Chirilla has been busy. After all, a swimmer's junior year is supposed to be his breakout season. And thanks to his stellar effort at state, Chirilla has been opening letters from colleges and making campus visits. He's a freestyler, and I see a picture of him on the front page of the Post-Tribune. And this is that little kid that used to hang. Denny, I don't know if he still does, but wrote for the Post-Tribune. He's got a real job, but he also wrote sports for the. I haven't seen his byline in years now that I think about it. And he just wrote sports things, and I would see him when I wrote for the Times. You guys don't realize this, but I wrote for the Times in the late 90s into the early 2000s, and that was how I kind of figured out that, you know what, I know I'm working in Chicago and I've got a job now, but eventually I'm going to want to get into local media. And what better way than when WJOB came up for sale? I had worked here in the late 80s. I'd worked for JOB, I'd worked for the Times, and I took a little hiatus for 18 years and went to the city and came back. And Denny was one of the guys that I would see at some of the games where we would go out and cover them in the late 90s, early 2000s. It's kind of how I got to know Al Hamnick a little bit then, too. Is Al coming in today? No, he's not in today. So, Swimmer of the Year, congratulations to Ethan Chirilla. Also in the WJOB family, congratulations to Rich Lieber. Did you guys see that? Rich Lieber, somebody emailed me. I think it's true. Let me see if we can find it in a paper somewhere. I was texted by someone in the know that Rich Lieber was put on the Griffith School board yesterday. That's Big Rich. Ryan, see if you can get a confirmation in one of the papers. I got to believe that. but I'll just go with it because I know the person who sent it to me. And somebody left that board, and they had to vote someone in yesterday, and it was Rich Lieber, so he's got a term. I guess somebody else is leaving the board too, and there you go. So, way to go, Big Rich. He, you talk about people kind of growing up in E.C. Hammond and then moving south, but not too far south. Lieber grew up over here they call him Biscuit. If he grew up over here by Edison, and now he lives in Griffith, and you hear a lot of stuff from him when he calls in. He'll probably call in today with traffic. All right, one of the big, we talked about a Highland story. We talked about a Griffith story. The one in Munster is going to be the buzz of Commander Restaurant, and I'll just read what Bill Dolan in the Times says about it. He says a judge has ruled against the state's efforts to recover all $851,000 it claims two retired Munster school administrators were overpaid. Circuit Court Judge Marissa McDermott ruled yesterday against the Indiana Attorney General's office, which is suing retired Munster School Superintendent William Pfister and retired Munster Assistant Superintendent Rich Sapko and several insurance companies for $851,000. Now, Marissa McDermott ruled in favor of Ohio Farmers Insurance Company of Ohio, one of several underwriters of the two school officials. State law requires most public officials have a surety bond to ensure the faithful performance of their public duties. So they basically were suing the insurance company. I don't know how painful that would have been for Fopko and Sister, but they get off on this one. So the Attorney General's office declined to comment. Attorneys for Pfister, Sapko, and others declined to comment. A source close to the case, according to Dolan, said the court sided with Ohio Farmers Insurance, which argued the Attorney General's office missed a statute of limitation deadline to press its claims against the defendants. So there it is. Maybe it was just a thing. The school town of Munster was $8 million in debt around the time Sapko retired, and of course that was around the time it was discovered that they had, according to, I think there's a quote in here that says that these guys gave themselves some money, and the plea by the Indiana Attorney Generals is that the superintendents changed the percentage that they should get for a bonus, quote, without any knowledge or approval by the school board, and were wrongly paid bonuses. Doesn't it seem just intuitively wrong that they should be able to take this money and not be, just not get no criminal act, no civil repayment, and they've just been able to take this money, and the Indiana Attorney General's office saying, hey, you know what, they took it without approval and it was wrong, and it just seems intuitively wrong. But I thought from the beginning, just after reading it, and I guess there was some language in one of the contracts where it was kind of vague whether they could do this or not. I thought from the beginning it was going to be really difficult to get money out of Sapko and Pfister. What the real, I guess, legacy tragedy of this is what? I mean, how do you guys feel about it in Munster? I mean, is this old news? Does nobody care about it anymore? In that we're just kind of moving on, and you've got they got a pretty good superintendent now, and you've got excellent principals, and for the life of me, I am missing a couple of names right now. So let me Google that before I go on to talk about this, because the school town of Munster's Dr. Jeff Hendricks, and then Mike Wells is the principal over at Munster High. What does Trippenfeldus do? I don't know. But anyways, Munster doesn't get the money back. Another black eye on the Munster school system. And maybe that's part of the legacy tragedy, is a black eye to Munster schools. I mean, for how many generations now? What had Munster High School started in the mid-'60s, 66, 67, something like that. And ever since then, when you think of good schools in Northwest Indiana, good public schools, what is that? That's 50 years. For the past 50 years, you pretty much start with Munster schools. And I don't know as if the academic achievements have been lessened at all over the last 10 years, but certainly running the schools at a huge deficit, and then all of a sudden one day we're $8 million in debt, and the superintendent and the assistant superintendent have taken a bunch of money that many people feel they shouldn't have taken. It certainly depressed the morale in the Munster school system. I believe it's kind of bouncing back. Maybe 2 years ago it was at its low, but I talked to a number of teachers and a number of parents, even students, and it was just kind of sad to see the actual performance kind of staying steady or even improving like it always has. But the morale, it was kind of two different worlds that, there's no money and the teachers aren't getting raises, and Sopko and Pfister got $851,000 and then took their money and left. I mean, it's been a bad situation. All right, what else? The mother, Grober, what is her first name? Gober, Kristen Gober, a 33-year-old woman out of Gary. There's still quite a bit of talk about the fires that were in the Miller section in the Lakeshore Dunes apartments. More details coming out about it. The 2-year-old girl and the 4-year-old boy both burned to death on the 4th floor. Smoke inhalation, I think is what they're saying. And the 6-year-old son of Ms. Gober made it out to go get help, but he couldn't get back up the stairs because there was just thick black smoke. There is some cell phone video of the young boy, and you could see him in his pajama bottoms and his little boy body just trying to run back up the stairs for his little sister and brother. And the people in the apartments actually have to restrain him from running back up for these two. I guess there was a miracle of one sort. One of the 8-year-old boy, an unidentified 8-year-old boy, jumped from the 4th floor to waiting apartment dwellers who had gone in and gotten a blanket and tried to catch the guy. Evidently, there was a bit of a thud when he landed, but evidently he's all right. Kind of a weird situation. I don't know if it was the Post or the Times I read this morning, where this mother, they're saying, was in the building. She was hanging out with the maintenance guy, and there was some sort of, evidently, maybe she spent the night there or had been drinking vodka with this guy. And so Kristen Gober said she, quote, tried to get her kids out of the fire, but there was too much smoke. She was, quote, telling her kids to come out. She could hear the kids, but the flames kept her back. Gober said she had talked with her 6-year-old before about fires and what to do and where to go if a fire happened. This is out of the Post. And she hoped that her children had made it out or that they jumped. Mother said she was in a state of shock and could not bear to watch the fire, so she walked to McDonald's. And she started walking away. Someone picked her up, and they took her to McDonald's. Kristen Gober was arrested at a McDonald's on Lake Street in Miller, a short distance away. Ms. Gober said that everyone knew that the children were inside and said it was a lost cause to tell the firemen about the children at that point. But the cops are saying that she didn't smell like smoke, so they don't know if she actually went up there. Here it is. Investigators questioned if Kristen Gober had gone to her apartment when the fire alarm went off, because while police smelled smoke on the maintenance employee, they did not smell it on Kristen Gober's clothes. I do not believe Ms. Gober to be truthful and credible because her statements were inconsistent with both the physical and other evidence. So there you go. How's that for a tour around the region, huh? Can you tell I woke up early? Hey, guys, we'll be right back. Carpenter's 99, and then I'll take some of your phone calls. 219-845-1100. What's on your mind? What do you guys think about the Highland resolution? What do you think about Greg Popovich popping off yesterday? How about the Justice of the Supreme Court saying, a former justice saying we have to repeal the Second Amendment. Be right back.
Carpenters Local 599 joins with other Carpenter locals to build the local economy and has been doing so for over 117 years. We are proud to be a member of the Indiana-Kentucky Ohio Regional Council of Carpenters, which is threefold: training, professionalism, and partnership. We also offer some of the best benefits in the industry. To find out how to become a member of Carpenters Local 599, contact us at 219-942-0518 or log on to ikorcc.com.
The 5th annual 911 Slugfest at the historical Hammond Civic Center will be held on Saturday, April 14th, with the doors opening at 6 p.m. This action-packed boxing charity event will feature the local policemen and firemen boxing out 3 one-minute rounds with an estimated 12 to 13 bouts overall. This year, all donations will be going to the Little Wish Foundation, an organization started in Michigan City helping seriously ill children facing the challenges of pediatric cancer. Tickets for 911 Slugfest can be purchased at ticketfly.com or by calling the Hammond Civic Center. Questions? Call Jack or Karen Callahan at 219-306-1203.
Jedi's Garden Family Restaurant, located at the corner of Klein and Ridge, is Griffith's locally owned family restaurant with a down-home feel and made-from-scratch favorites you'll love. Open daily from 5 a.m. to midnight, Jedi's features all-day breakfast, lunch, dinner, and night digs. For family-friendly dining with free Wi-Fi, stop in today at Jedi's. With your meal, make sure you try our award-winning lemon rice soup. Mention WJOB to receive 20% off your order at Jedi's.
You know, I enjoy watching basketball at home, but I think we should go over to Johnny's Tap in Munster for drinks and fun.
Yeah, I like going to Johnny's Tap.
Speaking of fun, I'd like to introduce you to Mr. and Mrs. Fun.
Mr. Who and Mrs. Who?
Mr. and Mrs. Fun, but they're at Johnny's Tap.
Okay, I'll see you there, at the corner of Broadmoor and Calumet Avenue.
Yeah, I like going to Johnny's Tap.
Johnny's Tap. New ownership, now smoke-free, and still the home of Mr. and Mrs. Fun.
A real neighborhood type of place.
Yeah, what are you going to do, huh? What are you going to do when you grow up? Me, I'm thinking about talking about on the radio and then maybe going and working out and teaching a class today. Hey, at 11 o'clock today, my sports broadcasting class, 390, is going to be live on Facebook, and they are going to take their test on sports updates. So actually could be kind of interesting, as we've tried several of them. So they'll do 2 of them, and they'll look at the camera and they'll read their sports updates, and hopefully they're practicing them right now, as they know they get a little bit nervous, but it'll be a quick. It's a kind of a midterm today, and then the final project will be an hour-long talk show that they'll be doing here in April. Hey, let's talk about traffic and weather, and then we're going to talk about Greg Popovich. Pop, getting it done. Pissing a lot of people off. He grew up over here in EC and then moved over to Maryville, where he went to high school. And I think he still has family. Anyways, he's been the coach of San Antonio for, more than 20 years, I'm guessing. 294 around the city looks good. 80 going east and west looks good to Bishop Ford, Dan Ryan, Skyway, Toll Road, Borman, I-65. Hey, those are all moving along pretty well. And traffic is brought to you by our good friends at Napleton River Oaks Honda. It is really light traffic. And part of that has to do with the weather. It's not wet today, really. It's just cloudy, partial sunshine coming our way later with a high of 55. Tomorrow, a high of Holy Thursday, a high of only 40, mid-40s with rain. So we're going to go from 55 and sunny to low 40s with rain and breezy, wispy day tomorrow. And then Friday, it warms up again, high around 50 and some sun. And then Saturday, high of 50 and cloudy and showers and rainy. And then by Sunday, we get a winter day, high in the mid-30s, mostly cloudy and chilly, and it gets down into the lower 20s. So all over the map for the Easter weekend. And you get whatever you want. You want rainy and warmer? Well, you got that. You want sunny and warmer? Well, you got that today. But today should be the best day for several days as it gets colder and rainier. And weather brought to you by our good friends at Ironworkers Local 395. They're out there on their way right now to building bridges and the infrastructure for buildings. And just some all-around good guys and gals getting out there and building the region for generations. Let's take a look at what's going on in the markets overnight. Really nothing. S&P is now up about 4, and the Dow is up 50. But it was down 334 points yesterday after being up around 300 points or so. So it dropped about 600 points, or at least 550, something like that. I looked at one point, it was up 250, and then it closed down 300 and it closed down 1.43%, and now I have percentage on there. I want price. Okay, there you go. And it is it was down 345. So yeah, it was about a 600-point drop. So in 2 days, you hit some pretty big ranges. As on, let's see, Wednesday, on Tuesday, the Dow went up 670 or so. And then yesterday it was up 300 and went down 350. So you get 650-point ranges easy. And then today it's up 50 on the Dow Jones Industrial Average. Part of that is a lot of people looking at President Trump and the trade wars, and are we going to have a trade war? And you get the picture. All right, 219-845-1100. You guys want to talk about something, but I do want to talk about Pop here, okay? In the wake of former Supreme Court Justice John Paul Stevens calling for a repeal of the Second Amendment, San Antonio Spurs coach Greg Popovich said changes to gun laws being discussed are Band-Aids. Even if they change the age limit, it's all a Band-Aid, Popovich said. The obvious elephant in the room is the guns, weapons of war, the magazines. The real discussion should be about the Second Amendment. Is it useful? Does it serve its purpose the way it was supposed to do in the beginning? That discussion should be had. Is one life more important than some congressman keeping his position because he's afraid he won't get funds from the NRA? It's a dereliction of duty on the part of everybody around Trump. Jimmy, could you play that? Hold on. It's kind of hard to hear, so I wanted to read it first. And let's hear Pop, and you guys will be able to watch him also from yesterday if you're watching on Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube. Pop with a beard, looking like a mill rat coming out, getting ready to retire. What is he, got to be in his early 60s? All right, let's hear it from Pop. Oh, hello, Pop.
We're going backwards, at least as far as race is concerned. And it has to be pointed out. I think our current president hopes to bore us to death with all these new issues day after day after day that keep him in the news, but you can talk about one comment or scandal after another and it becomes commonplace, forgotten about, and we don't even know what's going on behind the scenes, like what's happening to our environment and health and all this sort of thing, all the laws that are kind of sliding, and all the people who are being removed and being replaced, like scientists replaced by politicians and that sort of thing. We take our eye off the ball, and he's great at it. He's great at it. He brings out the dark side of human beings for his own purpose, which is himself. And if it's not pointed out, if people don't stand up and point it out, it will become commonplace, and it's not the world that I want to live in. And that's why the kids, that have been doing this, that have the march and everything, they give me hope that I'm actually living in the country I thought I was living in. Because at times it's not where I thought I was living. But they made me believe that They give you hope for the future, that they want to do the right things, that have moral clarity and common sense. You know, I mean, we have a president who sat across a table in a fake environment of goodwill, you know, to talk about gun violence, just like the immigration facade, where he'd sign anything, and of course he didn't do anything. And he actually leaned across the table and told 2 senators that they were afraid of the NRA. He said that. He just leaned across the table and told them and laughed about it. And then had lunch with the NRA himself and went back on everything he wanted to do. And, you know, those are all Band-Aids.
There's Pop, man. Shut up and coach. Shut up and dribble. You know what? I got to play that one too, because Ryan and I are sports guys, and that's just what we are. And you got to play LeBron. Ryan, you ready with that? I think, is your mic working? Can you say something?
My
there
mic
you
is
go.
working.
Okay, good. Hey, LeBron, I don't think he swears here, but he's close. LeBron James addresses his shut up and dribble comments. This is pretty good. I can play this here. Hold on.
That's the wrong computer.
Wrong computer. All right. Jimmy, get the shut up and dribble off of USA Today, will you? And Jimmy will get that up. Ryan Walsh, how are you, man?
Hey, I'm great. How about you?
It's a great day to be alive here on the radio.
It's baseball eve.
It starts tomorrow, right?
That's right. It's going to Johnny's.
It's been
the
about
crew.
Oh, you are?
The crew's getting back together. A long 2 weeks without each other.
The crew will be without me, okay? I have a final project due tomorrow for marketing, and I've been working my butt off. And I'll just tell you what it is. We are doing a case study of how Red Lobster should market itself and remarket itself and reinvent itself. And I got to tell you that Mark Desjardins, the manager over at the Red Lobster in Munster, has been extremely helpful to all of us as we try to figure out, you know, why Red Lobster has been so successful over the years.
Biscuits.
They have biscuits? I've never had a biscuit there.
They have those cheddar biscuits. I know people, I see it on Facebook. I'm going to Red Lobster. We're going to get those biscuits and a fish sandwich or tuna or crab or lobster. But
well, I'll tell you what, one thing they've tried to rebrand themselves as Fresh Fish, and they put in those wood grills so it wasn't all fried fish, and that's been very popular. And then yesterday on the news, or 2 days ago on the news, they came out with this fried lobster on top of a waffle and lobsters, and it was kind of exactly what they're trying to get away with. They're trying to people think of salads and fresh fish and grouper and salmon and maybe even some yellowtail, but so they're trying to go to that fresh fish thing, and they have done that, and they remodeled all the stores and stuff. But anyways, Mark Desjardins doing a great job. If you know Mark, tell him I said thank you on the radio or on Facebook and Twitter. Hey, Brian, we were started to talk about LeBron James and Greg Popovich
and Laura Ingraham
stepping into the world of politics. Laura Ingraham, told LeBron to shut up and dribble, right?
Yeah.
And he had this to say. Jimmy, can you play that or no? Are you able to find that one? Jimmy is working feverishly, and here it is right now. You ready to play it? Yeah, here we go. LeBron James addressing the shut up and dribble comments by Laura.
My 2 boys here, their best friend right here, my daughter that's at home, my wife, my family, and all these other kids that look up to me for inspiration and trying to find a way out. The best thing she did is going to help me is create more awareness. So I appreciate her for even giving me even more awareness, for me to sit up here in the greatest weekend of the NBA All-Star Weekend, and I get to sit up here and talk about social injustice, equality, and why a woman on a certain network decided to tell me to shut up and dribble. So thank you, whatever her name is. I don't even know her name, but I appreciate. What is it? Nobody knows. Oh, Tiago says no one knows, and that's perfect.
Actually, she's on WJOB, and you may have heard her make those comments. I know that a couple of people told me they made that. And in a weird way, we're starting to get people that advertise directly onto Laura Ingram's show. And when it doesn't air once in a while, that's not us. It comes in on a satellite network. We get a number of angry phone calls. So Laura is making her mark, and whether you love her or hate her, she has an impact. It's gone all the way to the LeBron house. And she said LeBron had made some comment. What did he comment on? I can't remember. Can you?
I don't exactly remember what it might have been about one of those rallies or something along the lines of. I mean, as he commented in that video, we just played social injustices, and I think Laura was like, "What does he know about social injustice? He's a millionaire in the NBA. Just shut up and dribble." I think that was somewhere along the line what Laura Ingraham said. But I want to say this about you said we got people advertising. We had a couple radio journals, Radio Wink and radio magazines, and conservative radio talk is booming. It's really taken off. Other aspects of like the 97.9, the Loop, the music, and that the kind of the shtick and funny morning shows, that kind of stuff is not doing well anymore. But
sports radio is struggling. Sports talk radio is struggling, and there's been layoffs and so forth. Really, the only thing thriving in radio, and we do read the journals, and they're actually doing better than they have in a long time, are independent local radio stations that get involved in the community. And I can't put my finger on why that is, but the large chains of radio stations, both Cumulus and iHeart, have filed for bankruptcy. You had the Loop in Chicago had to go Christian, had to get rid of music. People aren't going to the internet or aren't going to radio for music discovery as much. And certainly there's a lot of options for podcasts are taking over on a lot of the sports talk. I saw Dan Patrick isn't going to host Sunday Night Football anymore. Did you notice that?
Yeah, a lot of people have jumped off the football bandwagon.
Yeah, and so there's a couple of growth areas. Of course, streaming live video, even with Facebook's problem, basically grows every day. And then independent local radio. And I guess if I had to look for independent local radio is doing well. We're not the only ones. And part of that, I think, is that in a time when people don't really know where to turn and they want somebody that they can really kind of trust, because you really don't know what to trust. Now it comes out, you can't trust really what's going on Facebook. You know, people are tracking you everywhere. You don't know what's real and what's not real. Even when you tune into your local radio station or you follow it online and watch it, you get a feeling that, well, I can at least trust these guys. And that's how I would explain it. But anyways, LeBron James and Greg Popovich. LeBron James out of Cleveland, of course, he's not a local guy, but Greg Popovich is. And he has a national stage. And both of those guys are using that to comment on problems in America. Greg Popovich I think he was out of the Harbor, and then he moved over to Maryville. He's not going to shut his mouth. He's like I don't know, what is he, Vich? That's got to be, is that Serbian, Croatian, something? And, these guys never shut up. I know Serbians out of Stockich, there you go. I mean, and then I won't even name them, but there's so many guys here in the region, the Serbians and the Croatians that come out of the Harbor, try getting them to shut up. It doesn't happen. If they want to say something, they're going to say something, and Popovich is in that tradition, and he's carried that with him and hasn't really changed. In a weird way, if you guys were watching that video or listening just now, his voice sounds a lot like Kevin Roach out of the Laborers Local 41. But
well, I mean,
how do you feel about these guys stepping out of sports and into social issues?
I'm fine with it. I mean, everybody should be right to their opinion. And actually, right here on these airwaves, a couple years ago, we had Matt Money Smith in. Chicago was hosting the Big Ten tournament, and you asked Matt something that wasn't along the lines of sports. It was about politics or something like that, and somebody called in right away and said, "This guy's a brat." Get him back to talking basketball and what he's doing this weekend for the radio. I mean, so people just don't like people that are in sports talking politics or social injustice or other things outside of or entertainment. They have to. You played basketball. You can throw a baseball fast. You can hit the hockey puck 115 miles per hour. I mean, so that's all you can do. That's all you can do.
You know, that's unfortunate, too, because I'll give these guys some leeway any way they want to go. I mean, even look here locally, what you guys are listening to on a regular basis right now. I mean, I'm basically a sports guy. I mean, I started here in 1985 working with Mike Farkas, played 3 sports at Munster, boxed in Berkeley, and played college baseball. And I mean, I wrote for the Times for their sports section. And then all of a sudden, I got to take over the morning show because we don't have any money to pay anybody else. And I don't know in very many of these social issues. I'll never forget Tom O'Donnell, county councilman, comes to a picnic, and I say hi to him and everything. And my wife's like, "Oh, how do you know that guy?" Well, he grew up across the street from my cousin, Roger Blanton, on Strong Street in Highland. And she's like, and we had owned the station for like, I don't know, maybe 6 months. She goes, he's a county councilman, right? I'm like, no, I didn't know that. I'm sorry. She goes, God, you got to learn. And ever since that point, I was like, all right, I got to learn. But sports guys can learn what's going on and can have opinions. And sometimes I think they're really good opinions. Look at our guy from 1 to 3 today. Let's bring him up. And it's not all independent or liberal or conservative. I mean, sports guys can come in any fashion. I mean, look at Sam today. Sam, listen to him from 1 to 3. Sam's out of Highland. He's a sports guy through and through, but he is very astute on political observations. And Ryan and I finally said, hey, you know what? I think it's time for him to have his own show, and we're encouraging him to talk outside of sports, and he can do it.
Yeah, for him it's 1A, 1B. I mean, he's flipping channels constantly between I mean, he is a conservative. He likes the conservative scene for politics and sports, and he's always on top of what's happening and on the court, off the court, and what's happening in courtrooms and in law offices and things going on in rallies. He knows what's happening.
So when you get back to Pop is saying he really hates Trump, and he says something today that I thought was kind of interesting. He said it yesterday. He says that unless people speak out against Trump, we are going to accept kind of the bizarre as being normal. And I don't know what he means by that, if he has a political slant, he disagrees with Trump. Personally, as a media guy, I kind of thank Trump for giving us stuff to talk about all the time, because it's one thing you sit here every day, day after day, you're like, man, what am I going to talk about? Well, there's always Trump and always some weird thing that he's tweeted the night before, which we didn't get to today yet, but we will.
I got one for you, sports guy. Ozzie Guillen. He threw his name in politics a lot of times.
Yeah.
Ran him out of profession. I mean, he did make some inappropriate comments about Cubans, but I mean, he was astute in politics.
I don't know astute, but he certainly made a lot of observations.
And let's flip it around. People that don't like the sports, people making comments on other topics, look at them. I mean, how many people think that they can manage better than Joe Madden, that they're better than Fred Hoiberg, they're better than Joe Quenneville?
He's Ryan
So many
Wallace.
people do it. They think they can hit half-court shots, in clutch situations, can hit free throws with the game on the line.
What about you, Ryan? You don't say that many, social issue comments. It's just not.
I mean, my secondary. I mean, I love sports, but my secondary thing. I'm a big history person. U.S. history, world history. That's my go-to. When I'm not watching sports, like the week of the All-Star game and it's July, there's nothing on. I'm watching the Smithsonian Channel. I'm watching about World War II battles and Vietnam and Iraqi War. Learning about statues, paintings overseas. I mean, that's kind of my backdrop to relax a little bit.
Hey, guys, don't you sense something? A show possibility? A walk through history with Ryan Walsh, the sports guy. Come on, everybody's got to have what we're doing here, and I haven't had a full announcement of it, but over the summer we're going to be pushing into some new areas, and I'm pushing everybody here to come up with some new ideas for new programs. I think we just hit on one, don't you guys? Ryan Walsh's, what do we call Walsh's Walk? Walsh's Walk through history. Anyways, Ryan, what's going on in the sports world?
Well, also, I love to eat. I always love finding good restaurants. That's another one. I love to eat.
Hey, but I got to talk. I got to talk about this. All right, I go to a party, Phyllis Malo's 60th birthday at the Elks Club in Highland on Saturday night. And I told the Elks that I would give them a shout out. It's pretty cheap. It's right on 45th, on the south side of 45th and Highland. I don't know what that used to be. That used to be like a funeral parlor or something. I can't remember, but it's a nice building. And you walk in, you go to the left, and they have the secret bar. You can't go in unless you're a member or somebody signs you in. And evidently, they don't sign that many people in. It's mostly just members. And then you go to the other side, and they have a hall to rent in the back, and I was at the hall. And when you go to the bar, there's this big window, and you look into the bar. And I kept going up to the bar because that's what I do. And I kept looking in, and the lady was standing. I'm like, hey, man, how do I get in there? Oh, you can't come in. You're not a member. And I'm like, don't you know who I am? Don't you know who I am? And finally, after like 3 or 4 trips to the bar, I'm like, I want to get in there. And then finally, this guy that plays basketball on Wednesday nights with Mad Mac and my dad goes, hey, Jed! And then all these other people go, hey, Jed. And I go, see, don't you know who I am? So I got to go into the bar at the Elks Club. He went around and he signed me in, and I put the Water Buffalo hat on, and I did the Elks Water Buffalo handshake. No, I'm just making that up. So I got to go in. They have a really nice bar in there, and quite frankly, it's a really nice little hall to have a birthday party. Malo had their birthday party there, but
Malo's from Griffith.
Yeah, the Malo's from Griffith.
I know Joe Malo. He's
yeah,
a couple years older than me.
Joe was there. Yeah, he was there.
Played some cards back in high school.
Yeah, he what?
We played spades.
Oh, okay.
We had a computer class together.
Nice
guy.
He works for. He's a vice president at BMO. Believe it or not.
Really?
Yeah. He's really gone up in the banking world, and he went to Griffith High. Imagine that. So there's a guy I just got to tell you this story because it relates to sports. But a guy by the name of Ray Elbor. Now, if you guys know the Elbors from the east side, any of them, they've all moved over to Indiana, except one I think still lives in Lansing. But they're all over. I think there's one in St. John, Cherville, there's one in Crown Point, one in Griffith, one in Munster, and one in Lansing. And they're the sons of a cop who lived on the east side. Well, I got to know these guys, and Ray's like my buddy. And he was the guy that was behind Griffith State Football Championship, in that he made everybody do squats for like 3 years in the Griffith football. For Radke, he and Radke were pretty good buddies. Radke and Ray and I all lived in the same area, and right, around the corner from each other. And Ray is now one of these guys that doesn't eat any carbs. So he used to be like overly buffed, and he had these like massive everything on his body. And now he's sitting there lecturing me about how I eat. After all these years sitting there, we went one time. He and I went to Bridges together years ago. And we were hungry, so we each ordered a large pizza. Not to split a pizza. He got his pizza, and I got mine. And now he's telling me how I got to eat better. And I was just like, well, even my wife said he's getting thinner and he looks better. And Ray Elbor's the guy that I went to 2 retirement parties for him. He retires from BP, and they have 4 total retirement parties for him because he's a former Navy guy, and just everybody kind of likes him. And so then as soon as he retires, they come about 2 months later, they call him back, and he's been a consultant working over there ever. And now I'm like, well, when are you really going to retire so you're not working anymore? He goes, well, I don't know. And I told him, I go, when it happens, I'm not coming to your retirement party. I already did this. I went to your funeral once. You already died once. I'm not doing it again. Anyways, I just thought I'd tell you that. Thanks to the Elks. They did a great job on Saturday.
Well, I'll circle back to what you made a comment earlier about Red Lobster, about changing menus and healthier food. And I think with that the restaurants that are going along with that program are becoming successful, because we're finally getting it as a point as a nation about heart disease and diabetes, how severe and serious they are. And I think that's why some restaurants like Red Lobster are thriving, because they're cutting away from the fried foods and going to the roasted or oven baked.
I'm okay with baking a piece of fish and having some rice and broccoli with it. That sounds really good right now. I'm kind of hungry. The problem that I just can't get away from 2 things. Butter. I think God put butter down on the planet just so that when things aren't going well, you could always just look and think, well, at least there's butter. You know what I mean? And then the second thing is, beer. And I think God said, you know what? For some people, beer is just going to be something that they can go to. I don't go to it to get drunk or anything. I just like the taste, and I like holding a beer. So butter and beer, I don't know what you do with that. I don't know how I would.
Well, don't
cut
they make a
those
butter
out.
beer for like the Harry Potter fans?
Yeah,
So
that tastes horrible.
I
You know
tell
why?
what.
Because butter has to be eaten right away if it's melted. Otherwise, it turns bitter. And those butter beers are too bitter. Have you ever had a bitter butter beer, Baker? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Billy. All right, sports
Billy,
brought to you,
go ahead.
Sports brought to you by Johnny's Tap, 8050 Calumet Avenue, the home of Mr. and Mrs. Fun. High school softball yesterday. Lake Central doubles up Munster 8-4. Riley Patusik hits a grand slam in the win for the Lake Central Indians. Chesterton rolls over Hobart 12-1 in 6 innings. High school baseball. Andrean outduels Illinois powerhouse Brother Rice 3-1. 59ers ace Mike Doolin strikes out 8 Crusaders batters. NCAA basketball. Purdue guard Carson Edwards was named to the AP All-American third team. Center Isaac Haas has been named to the AP All-American honorable mention team. This may come to no surprise to you, Jim, but the National Bobblehead Hall of Fame says Loyola's Sister Jean has become the institution's all-time top seller. They just put her bobblehead on sale a few days ago, and she's already the #1 selling bobblehead.
Here's my credit card. Will you order one for me? I don't care when it arrives. I just
Okay.
want to have one. I want to put a Sister Jean bobblehead right here. Oh, wait. I told Baker I'd start to keep this a little more clean. Anyways, the bobblehead, I want you to order one, huh?
I will
and
do that.
hey, and also, where's that DNA registry thing that guy gave us? Remember we were going to send that away, and,
Oh,
and I have,
that was Lane's gift for you for Christmas. I
yeah,
thought.
Lane gave that to me, and I've got my podcast, my Grateful Dead podcast. I will do another one tomorrow, and I will post that. If you're a Grateful Dead fan, go to thisisdeadair.com. Just one of the many projects I'm involved in, and I need to find out. I want to find out what my history is. You know what I mean?
Matt Maloney was just in Ireland, and he posted a cool photo last night or this morning. History going back all to the 1800s of his heritage and Irish heritage. Where great granddads were born in this house, great grandpa, and now the transition over to America. Fascinating. I love Matt Maloney's Irish heritage.
Matt Maloney, of course, longtime advertiser here. His son Tommy, one of the forwards for Munster's basketball team,
And a future Hoosier.
And so, did they show any pictures of like other old Maloneys? And I'm just curious if it's like a tradition to not have a neck. I mean, do they go straight from their shoulders to their heads through the years, or is there some part of the family that actually has a neck? All right, go ahead. What else you got?
NBA last night, Chicago Bulls come up short in Houston, losing 118-86 to the Houston Rockets. NFL rule changes. What is a catch? Here it is. Having control of the ball, getting 2 feet down or another body part, making a football move such as taking a third step or extending the ball. That is a catch. They've defined it clearly.
Say it again.
First one is having control of the ball, getting 2 feet down or another body part, making a football move such as a third step or extending the ball. Those 3 things will constitute what is a catch.
So it's not that whole thing where you got to carry it all the way through.
So the ground does not play part anymore.
All right, man, that's good because there's been a lot of things that, man, that's a catch. And then all of a sudden they overruled a touchdown.
Vinny and I are
the
still
Cleveland
hurting.
Browns lose again.
Yeah, Vinny and I are still hurting from that Patriots game.
Yes.
Where tight end James looked like he extended into the end zone. That changed the seeding for the playoffs.
That was the history. It changed history of football. Go ahead.
Also, a new rule was rewritten, the helmet rule. It is now a 15-yard penalty for any player to lower his head to initiate any hit with the helmet. And the referees can review to see if it's worthy of ejecting the player. Kind of like targeting, but they're not calling it targeting like NCAA football does. And I know a lot of people are upset with the NCAA football targeting rule. It adds a couple minutes onto the game, but I like that they take time to get it right. And for the most part, I've seen them get the right call. If it's intentional or sometimes you're just running full speed and the player adjusts at the last minute, and there's that contact.
He's Ryan Walsh. I'm Jim Dito, a couple sports guys. Hey, we'll get back to getting some news and so forth in just a moment. Ryan, you have one more?
Yes, MLB opening day is tomorrow, 11:35. Cubs at the Marlins. John Lester on the bump. And for the White Sox, 3:15 at the Royals. James Shields gets the start. A couple of us will be at Johnny's Tap tomorrow for the Cubs game, 11:35. They've got the game on WGN, and they've got Old Style. They just brought in a new keg this week for the Cubs fans. Baseball is back.
Hey, Ryan, I went around the internet for an hour last night trying to figure out where my nephew got assigned to. And
I looked on the White Sox website yesterday. They have not posted anything about him being re-signed yet.
Okay, because all I see is that they still have him in rookie league at Great Falls. He may go back there. I mean, I understand that, but I just as soon as you get that, let me know. Okay.
Absolutely.
All right, guys, we'll be right back after this from Baxter Printing.
Baxter Printing, located at 3837 Ridge Road in Highland, is a family-owned and operated union print shop that has been serving Northwest Indiana for 60 years. A list of satisfied customers range from union locals and politicians to the everyday entrepreneur working hard to get their business off the ground. We help make that happen through our expert design and advice, creating everything from every door rectangles to business card banner. Why don't you let the Terrell family at Baxter Printing assist you in your next project? Call us today at 923-1999. Hear me say, Baxter Printing.
Looking to advance your career? Master's degree in technology online in just 18 months from Purdue University Northwest. Our graduates, their master's degree in technology, leadership, and management results in promotion and higher pay. Call Purdue Northwest at 219-989-2966. That's 219-989-2966 to get today.
Man, are you taking Viagra Cialis for ED? ED
None of your
should not
business.
stand for expensive drugs. If you're taking Viagra, talk with your doctor about Sildenafil. You can get the same active ingredient in Viagra in generic 20 milligram tablets for less than $2 each, saving over $30 per dose. Available at Vito's Pharmacy. Call us 219-228-7200 or visit us at pharmacy.com.
Vito's Pharmacy.
Save the date, April 19th, for the 2018 Fair Housing Act's 50th anniversary celebration and reception being held at the Center for Visual and Performing Arts in Munster from 3 to 8 p.m. At 3 p.m. will be a continuing education class from 5 to 6:30 p.m. and during a cocktail reception, and 6:30 to 8 p.m. program awards. Tickets are $35 or $45 at the door. A portion will go to NWIRA programs. That's April 19th from 3 to 8 p.m. Hosted by Lake County Task Force and Community Council of NWIRA.
Rush Radio Surgery deploys revolutionary technology in the fight against prostate cancer in just 5 patient treatments. Radiosurgery treatment for prostate cancer. There is no pain, no surgery, and you can go back to your normal activities right after treatment. Prostate cancer does not fight fair, and neither do you. For more information, contact Rush Radio Surgery at 312-942-4600 or visit us at rushradiosurgery.com.
No cases to results will vary by patient, and there's no guarantee other patients will experience the results.
Hey guys, 69 in the Calumet region. I'm Jim Diedla, host of JED in the region. 219-845-1100. What's on you guys' mind today? Kind of going into Easter, and is it? Hey, can you open these back here, by the way? Did you just close the curtains or whatever? Okay. We're going into Easter week. Be here Good Friday. Ryan, who's Good Friday? Who's on for Good Friday? Sam and Tony and Jimmy, okay? And we're not going to make an announcement. Eventually, that's going to be a team together here, but it's over the summer. But Sam and Jimmy and Tony, I guess, are doing the show on Monday morning. And I will not be here. I will probably be here tomorrow, but that is to be determined as I'm studying pretty hard right now for the final presenting for my marketing class. Can't tell you how informative that has been, and as soon as I finish that on Thursday, I'm basically going into a period where I don't want to be bothered developing an actual marketing plan, a strict marketing plan here, and we're going to actually maybe summer or into the fall get out and start learning things from people and developing the price, product, promotion, and all that we've never done here. And I just realized how much money we've left on the table over the years. Pricing is wrong. The product, we need more online. The promotion, we don't even do that. So all these things, every once in a while, the professor will ask me, well, what do you guys do in your business? And I don't know. We don't do anything. We just sit here and wait for people to call us. And I'll tell you what, if you want to get on the WJOB Facebook Live and YouTube and Twitter and AM and FM radio all in one in kind of a really reasonable price, call Debbie 219-844-1230. I'll be straight with you guys. Right now, we don't really go out and try to sell too much going forward until the primaries are over, because there's so much regulation that we have to play. If somebody comes in and buys spots, we have them. And sometimes we have in the past started new big campaigns for a company, and then it's like, oh, well, all I hear are these ads, and I'm like, well, we have to make room for that. By law, that has to take precedence. So over the next month, you're going to start hearing a lot of political ads here for people to get out their names, run the May primaries. All right, let's take a look at what's going on in traffic. 294 around the city looks pretty good, going east and west good. Bishop Ford, Dan Ryan, Highway Toll Road, Barn, I-65, US 30, and Klein Avenue. This is really weird. It's already a holiday week. You can feel it in that there's no traffic out there, zero traffic. And I can feel it on a couple of other ways. I can look at our Facebook here and maybe a few less people watching it, few less comments, just a few less of a lot of different things that we can kind of feel around here. And then by tomorrow it'll be less, and then by Good Friday it actually comes back a little bit on Good Friday, as many people are home and they just WJOB. But I won't be on Friday. I got a big project planned that I'm going to be doing at home, and I'm building a home studio so that one day when I'm just feeling really too lazy and I don't have any guests, I can do this show completely from home. And I've been wanting to do that for a long time. Damn, Pat, why can't I do it, huh? All right, guys, terms of traffic brought to you by Napleton River Oaks Honda, proudly bring Northwest Indiana superior customer service. Hey, and weather should be pretty nice a little bit later. Partial sunshine later and a high in the mid-50s. But tomorrow we're back to rain and windy as you get a high in the 40s. And then by Friday, a high of 50, and Saturday, a high of 50. Friday's your nice day where it's sunny. Saturday's kind of a rainy day. And then Easter itself is a high of about 38 degrees here at the Strachan Van Til Studios in the Purdue Northwest Commercialization Center. As you get a cold Easter coming, but it should be sunny, or at least some sun. 219-845-1100. What's going on in your guys' world? I'd like to hear it. I would like to hear somebody comment on this one topic. Okay? It's I don't know what to make of this, but according to Bill Dolan in the Times, you're not going to get $851,000 out of Sopko and Pfister in Munster. And here's what it says. A judge has ruled against the state's efforts to recover all $851,000 it claims two retired Munster school administrators were overpaid. And Marissa McDermott ruled on this yesterday against the Indiana Attorney General, who was suing, I guess, on the behalf of the Munster schools. As they were suing retired Superintendent William Pfister and retired Assistant Superintendent Rich Sopko and Pfister, Fopko and Sister. And you guys know the deed here. Munster schools were going down, down, down in terms of their finances to $8 million in debt. Munster residents approving a referendum to kind of help bail the schools out in 13 and in 17. In the meantime, according to the state attorneys general, Sopko and Pfister took $851,000 in bonuses that they weren't supposed to take. According to the lawsuit, it says without any knowledge or approval by the school board, they were wrongly paid bonuses. Now, my guess on this thing is that maybe this ship already left the port. The train left the station. It's water under the bridge, and nobody cares, honestly. And I could kind of feel that sitting down and talking I've got, 13 nieces. 13 nieces and nephews. No, 12. 12 nieces and nephews in the Munster schools right now. And I sat down with them for Jack's party over the last last week. Jack turned, I don't know, how old did Jack turn? 11, the youngest one, Jack 4-8, my nephew. And so I saw all the kids, all the 4-8 nephews and all the D-Lo nieces and nephews and all that. And in the past, there would have been talk about the Munster schools amongst the parents because they all have kids in the schools, and the Sapko and Pfister thing would come up from time to time. It hasn't come up in a year. So even though this is a kind of big news, I really don't think anybody gives a shh. Hey, I don't think anybody really gives a Shopko or a Fit. Anyways, you get the idea. So if nobody wants to talk about it, 219-45-1100. I'm not going to berate the topic. It was mistakes. I even think that the Munster schools are starting to kind of rebound from it in a morale way. Literally, the morale of Munster schools was just horrible 2 years ago. And I think it's starting to come on. It's starting to bounce back a little bit. Anyways, I'll take some phone calls. Let's go to Bill on line 2. Hey, Bill, how are you?
You know, Jed, this $851,000 we're talking about in Munster?
Yep.
Chump change.
Chump change?
You've got a $35 million swimming pool. Dr. Russ Piller didn't need it. Coach John Jepson didn't need it. They had a program that excelled and won 7 state championships that needed it. And Terry Austin, a lawyer in Maryville, and me and our team, we didn't need a 50-meter pool to glorify our children. That's why there's a debt problem.
You know, as far as I understand, that swimming pool and that football field at Munster, which are top-notch.
Absolutely. Well, of course they are. In the football field, you give that, you're biased because you played football for John Friend and you wanted the best. But it didn't cost $35 million.
Well, I don't even think that. I think you've got the wrong amount on that swimming pool, and I'll get an amount on that.
Well, I might be sorry. You know, it might only be $25 million. You know, I could be wrong.
It was expensive, but as far as I understand it, there's basically two streams of funding into schools. There is the facilities funding, and then there is actually, running the schools funding. And as far as I understand it, they don't talk to each other or really have anything to do with each other. So they were able, if I remember correctly, they were able to float a bond to build that swimming pool. And
just like we did in Hammond, $110 million for a new Hammond High and $70 million for operating expenses. And they get on the radio and say your taxes are only going up $70 or $80 a month, and everybody believes it, and it doesn't. And people don't vote. Somebody's got to answer for it someday.
Well, why are you against building a new Hammond High?
Hammond High was one of the foremost high schools in the country in the early '60s, if you recall.
I do. My mom went to Hammond. My mom went to Hammond High, and she would be embarrassed by what it's turned into.
Well, let's. Why do they need $70 million in operating expenses?
You know, I can't remember the breakdown on that. I think the headline of the Hammond referendum was the Hammond High School being rebuilt. Right. Okay, I mean I don't remember the finer points of it, but I want to concentrate right on that.
They say we want a new Hammond High School, and by the way, throw in another $70 million for operating expenses. It adds up to real money sooner or later, and it is saddled on the backs of Hammond taxpayers.
Okay, but my point comes, you didn't answer my question. Why are you against a new Hammond High?
It's like people want a brand new Bishop Newell. People want a brand new Andrean we can provide an outstanding education in our facilities that were built as Catholic Central in the 1930s, and we will do it, and it can be done in the public sector also. That's the best I can do.
Okay, so let's make this comparison. Okay, let's look at this. Who has better facilities, Bishop Knoll or Hammond High?
Well, I don't want to get into.
No. Listen, I'll tell you who has.
better than
I'll tell you who has better facilities right now. Bishop Knoll has better facilities than Hammond High. Now, I think Bishop Knoll might be is looking at doing a redo of their football field and turning it and stuff. But they need to work on their football field and their track, and I believe that's going to be getting done here. Okay, I don't want to steal anybody's thunder.
I'll get off point. You played football, and you've seen that artificial turf. I asked both my sons, Bill and Sean, who played linebacker side by side for 2 years at Bishop Knoll. I said, "Give us grass any day."
I understand that, but from a facility standpoint, and I don't know if Hammond High is going to a turf field or not. I kind of wish they would. And part of that is that you go up and down Columbia Avenue in Munster, or you go over by you go on 169th in Hammond, and you drive into Gary, and you look over there, and they're using those fields all the time. Okay,
where?
At Morton and at Munster High. And they can use those
fields.
fields.
They are, because all the schools in Gary are closing.
No, but the fields are able to be used because they're turf, and you're not ripping up the turf, and you're not saving it for football on Friday night. And it's over time is a much more economical decision to build something nice in the beginning that you can use all the time. I think it comes down to this, Bill, is that do you want to put money into public education or do you not?
You don't need $110 million with the enrollment at Hammond High, Judge. You don't need it.
Okay, that's good enough. Thanks a lot. 219-845-1100. Hey, a couple other things. You know, I'm kind of sad to report on this one, and this is out of the Times also. Police arrested two 15-year-old boys Monday on allegations they broke windows and glass at the future Mascot Hall of Fame. They spray painted graffiti and removed the nozzles from paint cans, causing them to spew blue paint on the floors. The damage was extensive and affected all 3 floors of the building. Now, that, of course, is under construction at 119th and Front in Whiting. Whiting detectives identified the boys as suspects after reviewing surveillance video from the construction site. Police were dispatched about 6:45 a.m. Monday after a project manager called 911 to report a break-in with property damage. They found a busted spray paint can with blue paint around it that appeared to be fresh. Walls and windows had been spray painted with a similar color, and glass panels on the second floor were shattered. Vandals set off fire extinguishers and left more leaking spray paint cans splattered on the floor. Some of the graffiti messages were obscene. Wow, that's sad. You know, we haven't really talked that much about the Mascot Hall of Fame, but, man, this is really going to change 119th Street in Whiting, and there's a lot of people that are pretty excited about this. And every once in a while you come up with like a weird niche thing, kind of like Pierogi Fest. I believe that they got a similar thing going on with this Mascot Hall of Fame. Is that Charlie? All right, we got to talk to Charlie. Charlie, how are you?
Happy 20 years to you. How you doing?
I'm doing all right, man. What's happening with Charlie today, huh?
What you going any place for Easter?
You know, I think we're going.
Happy Easter, by the way.
Yeah, happy Easter to you. Going to the mother-in-law's just like always. How about you, man? What are you going to do?
How's Mayor Dwayne Deedle doing?
Doing great.
How's Dave the Baker doing?
Look at Hanya, Hara Hama Hanya, Hera Hanya. He's doing great also.
Really?
Yeah, I think so.
How's Viva Melissa doing?
She's doing great also.
So what's new with you?
Hey, Charlie, I'm going to talk about what's new with me, and you listen to the radio, and then I'll talk about what's new with me. How's that sound? Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Do you miss working for the city?
No.
No, you don't, didn't you? I thought you liked working for the city.
Not anymore because I'm not. I don't like Mayor McDermott.
Why don't you like Mayor McDermott? He likes you.
No, because he's not doing good for the city.
He's not. What's he doing wrong?
I don't know. And I don't like Frank Moran. Last time when I went to the senior luncheon, the dinner was cold.
Last time you went there, your dinner was cold?
Yes.
What was it? Was it ham or was it turkey or what was
No. The dinner was cold.
the potatoes or the corn or the
everything was cold.
Well, what was on your plate? Describe it.
I do not know. I had to wait. I had a doctor's appointment. It came out late. I had to leave, and I think that was wrong.
So hold on a second. You got there late.
No,
so your dinner was cold.
I got there early. It came out late. It came out very late. The luncheon. I went to the doctor.
Oh, so you had a doctor's appointment after the senior luncheon.
No, I went to the senior luncheon. The dinner came out late. I went to the doctor's. I went to the doctor. I left because it came out late. When does he come on?
He'll be here. Let's see, a week from tomorrow. Frank will be in here. Now, I want you to get a little more specific so that I can pass this along to him. Was it the potatoes or the corn or the chicken that was cold? All of it was cold.
Everything
was cold. And was it a cold day?
No, I think it was this is a similar day.
Yeah, similar day today. So I got a question for you because I like cold corn, either on the cob or on a plate. No. But you don't like. I mean,
this a regular dinner.
Okay, just a regular dinner. There wasn't any corn on the plate?
No.
Okay, was there any green beans or anything?
This a regular lunch.
Okay.
And then another thing, the dial-ride bus service, it's horrible.
Okay, all right, hold on a second. We got to stop right now. You got to call Frank and you got to tell him that the corn was cold and that the dial-ride. All right, I got to go. 219-845-1100. We exhausted that, and now it's time to go to Dan. Dan, how you doing?
Hey, Jed, how you doing? Hey, I want to talk about whatever happened to the mom-and-pop radio stations across this country.
You know what? That's a good question because when I drive and go into other areas, I try to find like another WJOB, and a lot of times some areas just don't have one.
That's right. Whatever happened to LNR. I know Faircom bought it and stuff like that, but it brought jobs like school kids and stuff, to answer phones when all that stuff. But when Faircom bought it, it just, I don't know, into what do you call that, paid radio stations, and they would never talk about local issues. This is what you got here on your radio stations is, you read about the local issues. Some people like to voice their opinions on things, and this is the place to go.
Thank you. Hey, listen, speaking of voicing your opinions, are there any foods that you like to eat cold that some people might like warm? Like pizza. Do you like cold pizza?
Yeah, you can get a good pizza. That's how you sometimes know it's a good pizza. If you can eat it cold and it tastes better cold than hot, that's a good pizza.
Yeah, and my wife made some chicken fajitas the other day, and she came into the kitchen, and I had picked up the Tupperware, and I was just eating straight out of it with a little pitchfork, and just a total non-human being. And she came in and she's like, "What are you doing? That's cold. You don't have a tortilla, and you're eating out of the the main dish." And I'm like, "I think this stuff's better cold. Cold chicken with this salsa on it with green peppers. I mean, it's okay to eat it cold. You know what I mean? All right. Hey, I got to move on, Dan. Hey, what's your name, sir?
That's my name.
Come on, say it.
Rick
Mike, I can't hear you.
Rick Mossels.
Is that what you be? What's going on, Mossels? How are you?
Same old, same old, same old.
How old are you?
58.
58. You graduated from Whiting in 1977?
No, I graduated from Clark in 1978.
Oh, okay. I knew it was in that same area. Whiting, Clark, same thing. What's the difference? You know?
Exactly. I brought your newspaper in.
Why are you here? Just stopping in to say hi or what?
Just bringing the newspaper like I promised you.
Sun Times? Something's in here. What is in this one?
Your nephew.
Oh, yeah. In the Sun Times for hitting a home run for the White Sox. Thank you for saving that.
No problem.
Yeah, I was going to say, why are you bringing me a week-old paper here, dude?
Because he's in there.
I know. And where is it?
Should be on the right-hand side.
Yeah, there it is.
Local.
Craig Deedlow hits a home run, huh?
Local boy does good.
Where on here? On the side here?
Yeah, right
on
where your
the side.
finger is.
Yeah, right where my finger is. Okay. They don't highlight his name like they highlight all the major leaguers.
I bolded it.
Here it is. Local boy makes good. Chicago Sun-Times. Munster, Indiana graduate Craig Deedlow, a rookie league and a Class A Kannapolis outfielder in 2017, belted a 3-run game-tying homer in the 8th inning. Thank you.
And the box store is a couple pages away.
In the back, you ever just grab the paper and then go and sit at a counter and eat breakfast and look at box scores?
Every morning.
Same. You know what? I go over here there's a couple of local greasy spoons. They let me come to the counter. And then in the beginning, the first couple of times, they'll go, hey, aren't you? And, oh, yeah, listen, or this and that. And then they realize that I just want to put the paper down. And I just want to read the box scores, man. And you can just get into a kind of a Zen state, you know,
got
where
it.
like box scores. I've been doing that since I used to deliver auto parts in Berkeley and Oakland. And they'd send me on a run at 8 in the morning. And then they'd go, all right, we'll see you at 9. You're supposed to come straight back because I had to stop at the place and read the box scores. Hey, man, bad news about this Mascot Hall of Fame. Huh?
Yeah, it is.
What happened? It's just some kids went nuts, huh?
I guess so.
You know, that's getting pretty cool. All the walls are up and everything. I haven't walked through there.
Everything is up and done except for the displays. And I think there's an open house next Saturday.
Ryan, can you get that on my calendar? I keep telling Spager I'm going to go through there, and I see Stahura, and I'm like, all right, yeah, I'll come through and look at it.
I think there's an open house next Saturday.
You know, it's going to be a big deal. Mascots
is.
are cool.
Yep.
What's your favorite mascot? Kansas Jayhawk? Better not be.
No. I'm thinking Tommy Hawk.
Tommy Hawk?
Mm-hmm. He's the Blackhawks mascot.
Oh, the Blackhawk. Yeah, Tom Hawk. Yeah, Tommy Hawk. You're right. You know who my favorite mascot is? And I know this mascot's kind of scary to people. Purdue Pete.
Oh, he's a good one, too.
That big head and walking around with that goofy look, that gargoyle look on his face.
Yeah, you're right.
Hey, thanks for stopping by.
No problem. Thanks
hey,
for
listen,
having me.
I've got the Attorney General coming on. Do you want me to ask him anything special? You wanted me to ask him if he's going to legalize anything or,
No.
No, okay. Thanks a lot.
Don't ask him about CBD, though.
Well, who rode his motorcycle today? Who? I'm sorry? Oh, the Suns. Yeah, the Suns guy did. All right, hey, thanks a lot. We'll be right back on the Voice and Face of the Region.
Everything Italian. That's what you get at Giuseppe's Restaurant in Cherville.
Hi, this is Joe from Giuseppe's Everything Italian. Here today to let our friends and listeners to WJOB know about the few things that we have added. We offer catering now, catering for your party, family event, or even for businesses. Just give us a call at Giuseppe's at 322-0011 and ask for Joe. Thank you.
Giuseppe's Everything Italian is located at 1000 Eagle Ridge Drive in Cherville, just north of the Showplace Theaters, 219-322-0011, or visit giuseppespizza.net.
Fill your garage with your dream car during the Honda Dream Garage Spring event going on now at Napleton's River Oaks Honda. They're Northwest Indiana's destination for new and certified pre-owned Hondas. Napleton's River Oaks Honda has a huge selection of brand new and certified pre-owned Civics, Accords, CRVs, and Pilots. Come find out why you always get our best deal at River Oaks Honda. As always, Indiana residents pay Indiana sales tax right off 8094 on Torrance Avenue or online at riveroakshonda.com.
Napleton, second to none since 1931.
Hey, guys. 294 around the city looks good. 80 going east and west looks good. The Bishop Ford is good. But a recent accident on the northbound Dan Ryan, The center lane is blocked. This just happened just a little bit ago, and that's right around 87th. So we will keep an eye on that. We've had very light traffic. We're already into Easter weekend almost. And on the Indiana side, we have nothing to really report. So I'll keep an eye on this on the Dan Ryan. At this point, if you're trying to choose Dan Ryan or Bishop Ford or Skyway Toll Road, I would try the Skyway Toll Road until I get some better intel on this. I'm going to go into an interview with Attorney General Curtis Hill, and then on the other side of that, we should have some pretty good intel on that. In terms of weather, I have 54 today. Get some sun later in the day. Should be nice. Tomorrow, though, rainy and a windy day and a high of only 45. He's been in the news a lot lately, and here he is calling in on his regular phone call, and that is Curtis Hill, the Attorney General of the state of Indiana. Attorney General, thanks for calling in.
Thank you, Jim. Good morning.
Hey, where, we love to place people. Where are you? Down in Indy? You're driving somewhere? What's going on?
I'm on the road right now. I just left a meeting in Johnson County, so I'm heading back north from Johnson County.
So you had like a 6:30 meeting in Johnson County? It's pretty early to be leaving already.
7 a.m.
All right, man. Got to get up and do it. You got a lot of stuff going on here, but just in general, before we get to it, you and I have not really had a discussion since the Parkland shooting, and I just want to know how you're digesting that and what that's done to you personally.
Well, it's always unfortunate when we see dangerous and violent actions, especially on our most vulnerable, our children. And I was certainly grateful to have the opportunity to travel to Washington, D.C. to have a very serious meeting in the White House that not only included the president, but also included my colleague Pam Bondi, the Attorney General from Florida, who was right in the middle of this. And it's a tragic situation, but it certainly is an event that allows us to look at and reflect at what we can do correctly to keep our children safe. And fortunately, Indiana does some things already that I think are moving in the right direction or have moved in the right direction, and we need to continue that process.
So in those discussions in the White House, I mean, what do you want to see happen going forward? I know with the red flag laws are in there. Maybe it's time to kind of talk about that and what your position is. And if you could define a red flag law also, we'd appreciate it.
Sure. Part of my conversation with the president was identifying what we do in Indiana well. And one of those is the red flag law. Red flag taking its meaning from we hear, gee, weren't there some red flags that people saw that this was going to happen? And so in response to that, Indiana, back in 2005, the General Assembly enacted so-called red flag laws to allow police officers to have the authority when they believed that someone was dangerous or perhaps someone had a mental issue and was off their medications and potentially dangerous, to go in and seek a warrant to search for weapons, to seize the weapons, and protect that person's due process rights, but also to recognize that this is a situation that could boil into a dangerous or violent situation and remove guns from someone until a court can determine that the circumstances are warranted to return those guns in a normal manner.
What does that mean for, I mean, has the red flag law, I mean, is it something that you feel as if it has made Indiana safer and that should be projected to the whole country?
Well, I certainly think the potential is there. If we're able, it's like anything. It's difficult to say what's successful when you didn't have the violence occur. If you're able to prevent the violence, it's sometimes hard to quantify it. But certainly the ability of police officers to remove guns from dangerous people under the protections of due process is a positive thing. We've seen some examples of that where you've got someone who's made threats to a workplace environment, and everyone in the workplace is worried or concerned. This law would allow those red flags to be provided to police and for police to take action, for courts to take action, and could possibly prevent something from happening in the heat of the moment. So I think it's absolutely essential, and it's essential that it not do anything to interfere with the ordinary citizen's Second Amendment rights. So it's part of the solution in terms of the mentally challenged. One of the concerns that anytime there's an act of mass violence, the first thing that people talk about is that, well, this person was clearly mentally disturbed, and how do these folks get their hands on weapons? Well, this is certainly a way to make sure that we can do more to get those weapons out of the hands of dangerous people.
So you're in the White House. President Trump, you get to talk to him directly?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So what is where do you think this discussion with the president and with the folks that you're one of them, that kind of got to figure out how we make our schools safer amidst this kind of violence, where do you think this is headed?
Well, the first thing that we have to recognize, Jim, is that we live in a free society. And in a free society in the world, and in a free society, there are going to be risks of this nature. And it's our job to find that balance between providing the safety that we need, keeping us safe, and not changing the character of who we are as Americans. And that even includes in our schools. What we need to do is make sure that our schools are physically up to the task. We have certain schools, like the school in Southwestern High School in Shelby County, that has been specifically armored, bulletproof doors, bulletproof glass, wired to the sheriff's department 10 miles away, so that if an event happens, the sheriff's department is dialed in real time with cameras and monitors to be able to see what's going on and to get real intelligence from the personnel on the ground as to what's going on in the attack. And a wonderful thing about that particular pilot program is there are countermeasures in the school that can be activated from the sheriff's department remotely that can block or distract the shooter. And in that critical time between usually 3 to 10 minutes that it takes for law enforcement to arrive, and in some rural areas longer, if we can counterattack the attack through countermeasures, through smoke, bombs, through those types of things, we can help mitigate the damage. So hardening the schools is an aspect. Also, it's time to consider that all schools have a school marshal or a safety resource officer, someone who's there for dangerous situations, but also someone who's there working with the school to provide information on kids who themselves are showing red flag behavior, a behavior that can have a tendency to blow up into bringing a gun to school, and making sure that we're getting resources and services to those children before that occurs. So that's what these school marshals or safety resource officers can do in the situations, in the times where we don't have a dangerous situation occurring.
How about arming teachers?
I think arming teachers is problematic. I don't, and problematic from this standpoint, Jim. I don't think that we can consistently have a program where we have the number of teachers that are well trained and armed across our entire state. I think it's a much better protocol if we have well-trained officers or security personnel whose responsibility is to handle those dangerous situations. There's a whole lot of things that can go wrong with a concept of the teachers arming themselves, and I think the president made it clear that he wasn't just saying arm the teachers. He was saying arm teachers and make sure they're well prepared, well trained. But I don't think that can be a consistent return on the investment, if you will. I think our teachers, my wife's a teacher, my wife's job is to go in and teach English, and she does it very, very well. I don't think we need to add to the responsibility of teachers to pack weapons and engage in firefights. And if anyone out there has ever trained with a firearm, like I have, target practice is one thing. Being in a firefight is an entirely different matter, and law enforcement personnel who've done that will tell you that the adrenaline and all things that are moving at that direction, it's not as simple as one might think. So I think the better course would be for our schools in Indiana to invest, much like we would have to have an English department or a math department or a science department, music department. We need to have a security department within our schools to make sure that we're doing everything that we can to physically keep our kids safe.
Let's talk opioids. You sat across from the president and the White House, and some of your discussion was on opioids. There's a huge White House opioid initiative. Tell us what that, just tell Northwest Indiana what that discussion was like and what you want to see happen.
Well, the encouraging thing about the president's position regarding opioids is that he does put a renewed focus on enforcement, on making sure that we're doing more to secure our borders from illegal drugs coming into the country. Much of our focus is necessarily on treatment, but we have to recognize that there is a flow of drugs that in many instances is unimpeded. And one of the things that we can do in our state is to renew our efforts for interdiction, making sure that local law enforcement has the resources to be able to conduct interdiction patrols to intercept illegal drugs that are being driven into our state on a daily basis. We had that down pretty good back in the 90s and the first part of the 21st century, but resources have been lagging in that area. And while the focus has been on treatment, we've been defocusing enforcement. So I think that's one of the solid messages that came from the White House was the need to look at the three prongs of a comprehensive plan: treatment opportunities, particularly treatment in lockdown facilities, because that's where we find a lot of folks who are locked up do have problems with substance abuse, and that's a captive audience. Prevention, but also enforcement.
We're talking to Attorney General Curtis Hill. There's a lot on the docket. I'm going to follow up on the opioid. I can't find the quote right now, but I saw somewhere that you were saying, well, why not make Indiana one of the, I guess, the stars of, or, one of the states that people look up to as making it very difficult for drug dealers to operate. And part of that was, stiffer sentences and enforcement. Can you talk to this a little bit?
Absolutely. We want to make Indiana the worst place in the world for someone to want to sell drugs. And we do that by stiffening the penalties so that the risk of selling drugs in Indiana is not worth the reward of high profits and all that comes along with the drug world. But we also want to make Indiana the best environment in which to seek help. We certainly recognize that there are addicts who need help and want help, and where they want help and need help, we want to be first in line to make sure that happens. So it's a approach, but we can't mix this up and go easy on drug dealers. We can't have an environment where we say that drug use is okay. We can't say that criminal activity is okay. So while it's a noble concept to destigmatize addiction, and I'm all for that, because I think if someone is addicted and they want help, we need to do everything we can to get them help. But we need to still make sure that we don't do anything that encourages substance abuse or encourages criminal behavior. And some of those lines can get pretty cloudy in discussing what to do about drug activity. We want to do everything we can to help people who are addicted, but we can't do more to encourage that behavior.
Attorney General, you've been kind of busy, and so I'm going to go one last thing here if you got another minute.
Sure.
Let's talk about the Obamacare. I think it was last month you joined or had Indiana join with other attorney generals, I want to say 19 or 20 states, and basically going after the constitutionality of Obamacare. Where is that suit, and why are you doing this?
That suit is in Texas. Texas and Wisconsin took the lead on that. We joined, and it was a basic constitutional argument. If you recall, there was certainly an alarm and a suggestion that the original enacting of Obamacare was unconstitutional. It went to the Supreme Court, and in a very close decision, Justice Roberts wrote the opinion, and in that opinion, he determined that the provision in the ACA, the Affordable Care Act, that made the act constitutional was in the Congress's power to tax, basically referring to it as a tax, and Congress's power to tax is what made the individual mandate constitutional, suggesting that if that power to tax did not exist, that the individual mandate would not be constitutional. Well, the position that we've taken in the most recent filings that were rejoined with Texas and Wisconsin is that the recent tax code changes in the end of 2016 repealed the tax provision of Obamacare. It no longer exists. So if you go back to the Supreme Court decision that was written by Justice Roberts that relied heavily, almost exclusively, on the taxing authority of Congress and the fact that Obamacare was a tax, now that it's no longer a tax, it calls into question whether the individual mandate would therefore be constitutional. And that's the issue that's been raised in the suit that's been filed in the court in Texas that we've joined, asking the court to take a look at that now that this tax has been removed, going back to what Justice Roberts said in the original action. Would it not be true that this provision would now be unconstitutional?
He is the Attorney General for the state of Indiana, and like I remember the first time I spoke with you, and I said, "Wow, I can't remember what the issue was, but you spoke very openly about some very sensitive issue, and you have not just continued that; you've accelerated that, and you're you're obviously involved with stuff on the national scene. So I'm going to throw one more at you, okay? Since you're driving, or do you got to go? All right, we lost them. Okay, good enough. Yeah. Hello.
Wait, are you there? Are you there?
Are you still there? Do you have time for one more, or no? You got to go.
Yeah. No, I'm good. I think I lost the reception there for a second. We're good. Go ahead.
Yeah, here it is. John Paul Stevens yesterday, and of course you as a lawyer, I'm sure, followed this and, are tangentially related to this. He says it's time to repeal the Second Amendment. What do you say?
Absolutely not. I did pick that up. I think the students out there that are protesting, I applaud the fact that young people are engaged and getting involved, but I want them to understand the issues at hand. I mean, let's presume for a moment that we're successful in that we're going to have no guns. We're going to ban guns in America. What does that mean? Does that mean that all the guns that are out there now, that the estimated hundreds of millions of guns, are going to be confiscated? What would that take? Is that somebody going to go house to house, door to door to retrieve those guns? Are we going to take guns from people who are lawful citizens? And what about the people who disregard the law? They're not going to give up their guns. So what will end up happening is you disarm those of us who are lawful citizens who use our guns for defensive measures, and the people who are violators of the law or disrespectful of the law will retain their guns. The violence doesn't stop. Much like Jim, if none of us want nuclear war. So in our quest for not wanting nuclear war, perhaps we would say, well, America should eliminate its nuclear arsenal. Now, would we eliminate our nuclear arsenal because we don't want nuclear war when we have other nations that may have an eye on destroying us have their nuclear weaponry? I think that's an analogy that we need to consider. So I don't think it's a prudent idea to repeal the Second Amendment. I think that what we have to start understanding is what goes into the hopelessness that makes a mass shooter, and do what we can to correct those types of behaviors, hold folks accountable, but look into what it's taking, why people are being driven into these types of hopelessness standards, and do more to intercede and correct that behavior when we can.
He is the Attorney General of the state of Indiana, Curtis Hill, and once again, I will reiterate, open invitation for you to sit across the table from me.
Oh, you got it.
All right.
We'll do it.
Thanks a lot, Attorney General.
Thank you, Jim.
Talk to you. All right, guys. Outspoken, getting involved in national issues, going and see the president, filing Obamacare stuff. Very proactive Attorney General, and getting his name out there, man. I mean, his name is being thrown around in some pretty high circles. Johnny Selzider hanging around. Let's talk to him.
When you're in the dark, where do you turn to find a trusted professional who can assure the safety of your home or business electrical system? Certified Electrician is here to help. Looking for a highly skilled electrical contractor for your next construction project? CertifiedElectrician.com is where to find one. We connect you with pre-screened electrical professionals living right here in Northwest Indiana. Experts in residential, commercial, voice data video, and signage. Certified Electrician can fulfill all your electrical needs. Visit CertifiedElectrician.com.
ARW Pro Wrestling, the best in the Midwest, returns to Morton High School in Hammond, Indiana. Max Holiday teams with Ivan Manson to face Old School Manson and Drex Odell. Mr. M80 Marche Rocket versus the Dark Horse, Nick Cutler. Greg Glover takes on Anthony Totelli. Moxie Molly meets Stacy Shadows for the first time. Aggravated Assault butts heads with the Machine and Johnny Showtime. And in a three-way dance, Excalibur versus Dave Allen versus Theo Storm. All the titles are on the line. Saturday, April 14th. This is a fundraiser for marching band uniforms. Doors open at 6 p.m. Showtime, 7 p.m. ARW Pro, the best in the Midwest. Morton High School, Hammond, Indiana. Saturday, April 14th. All the action, all the excitement, and everything you'd expect from ARW Pro.
Do you have a family history of heart disease or diabetes? St. Catherine Hospital Cardiovascular Prevention Center providers are offering free assessments to help determine your risk for heart disease and other related medical conditions. On Mondays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays from 9 to 11:30 a.m., you can stop by the center at 7217 Indianapolis Boulevard in Hammond for assessments like an ABI leg circulation test, blood pressure, body mass index, random glucose assessment, and more. You must be 18 or older, and walk-ins are welcome. You have only one body. Let St. Catherine Hospital of Community Healthcare System help you take care of it. You can also call 219-392-7CVP to book an appointment today.
Elmwood Casket Company in Hammond and Cherville offers over 100 American-made caskets, up to 60% less expensive than area funeral homes, along with a wide selection of burial vaults and cremation urns. Our company is licensed by the state of Indiana and offers interest-free pre-arrangement plans. Call Mike at 219-844-7009 or visit elmwoodcaskets.com for pricing. Remember, you do have options to prevent overpaying at the funeral home. Elmwood Casket Company.
7:38 in the Calumet. I'm Jim Dietlow, host of JED in the region. Thanks for joining us. Jimmy Mullaney spinning the dials. He's going to be the primary morning producer here going forward. Sam Michael. You can hear Sam from 1 to 3 in the afternoon while you're driving around or you're at work, or you can watch him. And he is getting, I guess, more acclaim as a young conservative radio host and Facebook and Twitter host, and you can watch him. And he used to be the guy that did this in the morning. Sam, of course, came out of Highland, and he is was working here. He got a communications degree over here at PNW, and I was a little bit turned around at his lack of technical skills. And I berated him for such, and then I turned around to train him, and he pretty much kind of helped reestablish some of the video quality here in the morning, and Jim Mullaney's taken it to another level. As you saw, if you watched that interview with Curtis Hill, was on a nice split screen, and you could see Curtis Hill up there, and then you could see me on the other side. It was kind of cool. All right, guys, 7:39 in the Calumet region. Taking a look at 294 around the city, looks good. 80 going east and west looks good. Bishop Ford, we talked about that accident near 85th Street earlier, and that is now backing things up all the way up to 103rd. So what is it, 85th to 103rd, 18 blocks of backing up, and it's kind of tight through that merge. But to be honest with you, we've seen it worse. So even if once you get past the accident, it's a little bit tight. And let's see. I don't want to put out a watch to Bishop Ford, but we're close, okay? Hey, the Skyway, Toll Road, Barman, I-65, and US 30 and Klein Avenue. You know what? Those are all moving along pretty well. Traffic brought to you by Napleton River Oaks Honda, proudly serving Northwest Indiana with superior customer service. Pursue your passion with a degree from Aurora University Online. Choose fully online programs in business, computer science, and more. Visit online.aurora.edu. Taking a look at weather, which is brought to you this morning by Rush Radio Surgery. Their dedicated and experienced team mission is to provide the highest quality and most compassionate cancer care. Visit them at rushradiosurgery.com. And the weather is really not a bad day. It's kind of cloudy out right now. You can kind of see that behind us, but Should warm up. Right now it's 39 degrees here at the Strachan Van Til Studios on the campus of Purdue Northwest, going up to a high of about 55 with some partial sunshine later, so it shouldn't be too bad. Thursday, a high of 47. Tomorrow, periods of rain and breezy. And Good Friday, when I will not be here, is a high of 49, partly sunny and chilly. Sam, Ryan, and Jimmy, the recent grads, two recent grads from PNW, and then, of course, Ryan Walsh is the main producer here. They'll all be taking things over on Friday morning. We'll see what they can do. And in terms of the markets, they're all over the place. Right now, the Dow is up 53 overnight after being down nearly 350 yesterday, after being up nearly around 300 points. So all over the place on the markets and all over the place on the weather, to be quite frankly. Hey, congratulations to Big Rich Lieber. What's that? That is not him. I knew it was. All right, so we need to talk to Big Rich, and we'll talk to him because he is the newest Griffith School Board member. Big Rich, way to go, man.
Thank you. I actually called for traffic.
I know, but now you are, well, now you've been appointed, but eventually you could become an elected official. But before we talk about, tell us about traffic because that's most important.
Oh, well, I heard the accident, so did my pay, so it went down Klein. Total Road paid the ransom to the Meg Ryan, and it was wide open even up until the Jane Byrne interchange. So all the cars were still clogged back by 87th there, and so it was an easy ride-in if you paid the money today.
Yeah, it's and I suggested that as soon as this accident, it was in the center lane, which is like the worst place to have something. And they're backing up 87th all the way to 115th now. So that's a long way. And try to stay off the Bishop Ford and the Dan Ryan right now, at least until this clears. Big Rich, why did you want to get involved in the Griffith School Board?
Well, because I've lived in Griffith for about 17 years, and I volunteer in town a lot. And when the board position came available, I served on the redevelopment and other commissions in town, and people said, you'd be a good advocate for the kids and, the school and the town. So thought about it, and I'm thinking, let me see, I own my own business. I volunteer a lot. I do stuff with my family. Yeah, I have a little free time. I could take on this challenge, and what I want to do is I just want to see the momentum that Griffith has move forward and, make the policies friendly for everybody, and most importantly, keep the schools safe and all our kids.
Hey, Rich, how did that, what was it, a party caucus, or how did you get installed yesterday? And who left the board so that you would have that position?
The person who left the board is Ray White. He resigned from the board, and I believe it was just a residency issue. I think he was moving out of the Griffith School District. And how it happened was I just like a firing squad, I just sat in front of the school board and the administrators, and I was asked questions. There were two other very qualified candidates there.
One of them I'm going to see. One of them I'm going to see in just a little bit. What's Reskin's wife's first name? I forget her first name.
Kathy.
Kathy Reskin's very qualified candidate. I didn't know the other one, but yeah. So I mean, Griffith was. I don't know the third person, but at least I knew. I'm like, wow, they got two pretty qualified people to choose from. So, so you went up there and you had to ask a bunch of questions, and then the school board chose. Is that how it was?
No, the school board chose, and also there will be another opening coming up in April. So one of the other two candidates will be voted or appointed also in April. So we'll finish out our terms until November, and then if you're not busy, Jed, I'm looking for a campaign manager. So.
Hey, that's just a ridiculous, ironic, sardonic thing you're trying to make, but I do have a serious question. Do you know any good places for breakfast?
Well, let's see. I like to hang out at JED's a lot. I was there last night from about 7 to 10, and I'm turning in that old curmudgeon where you get a bunch of guys sitting at a table for 2 to 3 hours,
and then every once in a while, if you walk into JED's and you turn to the left and then you take another left, there's kind of a big round table, kind of elevated there. And it used to be Gus's table, but now it's Big Rich's table now that he's on the school board and the new mayor of Griffith. But every once in a while, if you're in there just trying to have a nice quiet breakfast, or more in the evening, you're just trying to have a nice cup of coffee after your dinner, all of a sudden these loud harangues of laughter come from this table every so often. And it's really quite annoying, to be honest with you. Talk to you. Bye. I got to go. I got the last word. Hey, I got some stuff to carry with you guys. 746 in the Calumet region. What do you guys think about Curtis Hill? Come on. He had a couple things to say. Do not arm teachers. I was a little surprised at that. He wants to make Indiana the hardest place in America to deal drugs by just basically increasing the penalties and, aiding law enforcement. In other words, kind of take a law enforcement angle to drug dealing. And what does he wants to do? He's talking about repealing the Second Amendment would not reduce violence, but would also increase violence. He's also going after Obamacare, which he has been doing from the beginning, the constitutionality of Obamacare. And he has joined Texas in that fight. Texas kind of taking the lead there to repeal that from a legal standpoint, not from a congressional standpoint. So he has been very active. He also sat across from Donald Trump. And Curtis Hill, of course, is an African-American conservative. Hey, can you guys let Kuziak in? He's going crazy out there. Not that I mind him standing out there and just kind of looking, but he'll come in here and he'll be all cold and he'll have some negative things to do. By the way, I had to tell you, I had a guy come in here. Oh, Silvestrovitz is running for clerk against Lorenzo Arredondo. There's a couple of names that have some mileage on them. Lorenzo Arredondo and what's Silvestrowitz' first name? Andy Silvestrowitz. And he used to hang out in Frogsville and Roxanne over here. So Andy's been around the family for a long time. And I want to say that he may have even known my Uncle Chester, who was the precinct committeeman in, if you go north, come on in, Coos. You're going north on Indianapolis Boulevard, right before you go into EC by the train station, right past there's a little section of Hammond right there, and that was where all my relatives grew up on the Polish side. And Uncle Chester was the precinct committeeman, and every once in a while some big politician would come over to the house, and we all had to be quiet out in the street and, not do anything stupid because some guy in a suit had come over to the house. But Silvestrowitz has been around a long time. But you know what Silvestrowitz says to me yesterday?
Silstrovich.
I know. Say it again.
Silstrovich. You know whose uncle that is, right?
That is somebody's uncle.
Johnny's.
Narcisse, right?
It's his sister, his mom and Silstrovich are brother and sister.
Yeah, there you go. So it's Lefty's uncle, Silstrovich's, and
Navrasai. It's not Nurse Navrasai.
Yeah, but he doesn't go by that. He goes by Lefty. So maybe he's up for a level 6 felony because he's using an assumed name. But anyways, Andy says to me, he goes, "Hey man, you did a good job on my sister-in-law's roof."
It was me.
And he's like, "Well, what are you talking?" I go, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "Yeah, you guys were over there working on the roof, and I heard you guys did a real good job on that roof." And I'm like, "Do you realize how many times people come up to me and think that I'm Dave Kuziak? That is embarrassing."
The main point is that he was happy with the job that we did.
No, the main point was that he was in here buying advertising. That's even better. So
buy local, baby. Everybody buy local.
Yeah, every time you guys go over and spend money at some other non-local place to buy your political advertising. And I was talking to him. I go, hey, this is, thank you. Well, we appreciate it. And he goes, yeah, well, I made a mistake last time. I didn't really spend that much money with you guys, and this is a place to come for it. I get it. And I go, well, good. I appreciate that because you're right. Lorenzo Aradona was here just, and it's kind of early. I mean, we're still in March. Typically, we don't have these.
Going to be very, very low voter turnout.
Very low voter turnout. So
it'll be 16% of the people have registered voters.
Yeah, but
there's no race that's really getting anybody out, including the sheriff's race.
I don't know, Coos. I mean, when it's low
right,
vote.
Matt still owes me dinner from last prediction.
Okay, all right,
16% on the high side, which basically gets to, first of all, people don't like to declare. Okay, so you're talking about primary, and you only get hardcore people to come out. 16% of registered voters, which means 8% of people walking around will determine who our nominees are.
So let's talk about those people. Those folks that are like 8%, and I think you're probably fairly. It'll be below,
within 2%.
It
18
should be
would
below,
be a high vote.
Yeah, it should be below 20%, and then that's registered voters,
which
so
is one of two is registered. So you divide it in two from our math back in the day. So on a good day, 10% of the people in this region.
Yeah, 1 out of 10, less than 1 out of 10 people. So typically, those folks are people that are hardcore Democrats. And they're going to
have some affiliation to the party, whether they be precinct people, individuals who work under either at the county, the township, one of the cities, both sides, whether it be Democrat or Republican. They're somehow tied in.
Somehow.
Because a lot of times people don't like to declare, or they like to be able to bounce from one ticket to the other based on if they may know someone.
In the general. Because these are local elections, a lot of times the party isn't as
Plus,
important.
they don't. And you realize this, once you vote in that, you can tell what party some people are, and some people don't like being affiliated with that. Like if you run for office and you get all the information, it says on the block who votes Democrat, who votes Republican. It'll say who voted in the last primary.
I gotcha. And honestly, I think the first time that I ever declared or even voted in a primary, and I, as you well know, don't really talk.
You don't care.
Kuziak has tried. He's so many times tried to draw me in a conversation outside of these
radio shows. I have different groups of friends.
Yeah.
You're one of my sports friends.
He
You're
tries
not the political
talking to me,
friends.
and I'll just look at him like, really, Kuz? I'm going to talk about this county clerk's race? Are you kidding?
I have
but
friends
listen,
who
I want to
voted
come
for
back to that. I pulled a Democratic primary ballot one year.
For a
couple
friend.
years.
For a friend.
And the only reason I did that
was for me.
Was Kuziak was running.
You were the one who voted for me.
Yeah, I was the one. Kuziak was running for something. And so now when I see Andy Quinnell, he's like, well, you're a Democrat. I go, what do you mean, dude? I'm just me. I don't.
You know that has major ramifications. As you can never be the federal prosecuting attorney under a Republican rule now.
And he's like, I go, what are you talking about? Well, he's like, in 1992 or whatever year you ran, you pulled a Democratic lever, and I'm like, I pulled a lever so that I could vote for Kuziak. This is a huge argument.
Let me ask you a question. If there's no politics involved at the highest level, then why does the federal prosecuting attorney have to come from the same party that is in charge?
Oh, that's why are you even asking that question?
But why would it matter if there's no politics involved?
Oh, stop. Kuz, we live in the real world. Speaking of which, I want to get back to this. So I had a local guy running for an office over here recently, and I'm like, man, it seems like there's thanks for coming over here and buying some advertising and stuff. I'm like, but with low voter turnout, why, I just want to know. I ask people anymore, why are you advertising with WJOB streaming or with radio? And he's like, well, with low voter turnout, it's even more important to advertise with you, JED, because the people that vote are the ones that listen.
Political people listen.
Political people listen, and then they listen to Curtis Hill there, and I had McDermott on yesterday, and he's like,
there's really nowhere else to go.
Yeah, exactly. And he's like, you gotta, if you're running, you gotta be on here, and people have learned that over the years. And I'm like, oh, that makes I didn't realize that. I thought if more people were voting that we'd get more advertising. And now that I think about it, we don't do that. It's actually less. When there's less people voting, there's more advertising.
There's a lot. There's a couple things that are going on that are affecting. And I listened to Mayor Tom yesterday. He was right on the mark when he was talking about campaign finance is very big now. So
yeah,
how you
let's
raise
get
your,
the,
how
hold
you
on a
raise your
second.
money is very
Let's
important.
get to campaign finance in a second. Is this Paul from Hassie?
Yeah, Jim, good morning. How are you?
I want to know, and I imagine this is why you're calling in. Sopko and
Well,
Fist.
really, I want to talk to Dave. I'd like to talk to Dave a little bit. Hey, Dave, good morning.
Hey, good morning. What's going on?
No, before we do anything, Sopko and Fister win yesterday. Did you see that?
It's not necessarily
Oh, I
completely
saw
done.
that. I don't really want to talk about that. That's a very sore subject with me, as you very well know. So,
Hey, let me sum up real quick with Jim, because I disagree a little bit with what Jim said when he said that Boat left. Here's what people in Munster have come to the conclusion of. That happened in the past. The current school board administration and the past school board administration sent all information to the Attorney General's office, and now it's in their hands. What it's our job to do now as residents of Munster is to make sure we get our schools, get the proper people in there, give them the tools necessary, and make sure our kids are getting educated. So for us to spend any time, energy, or an effort, we're letting the attorneys do what they're supposed to. It hurts. Don't get me wrong. I think it's very difficult that these two individuals, and let's go back for a second. My brother-in-law is a teacher. Teachers during the time that those individuals were getting bonuses were asked not to take a contracted raise so that there would be no layoffs of their fellow teachers. And they agreed to that. So during that the teachers who were in there day in and day out did not take a raise, the two individuals were taking bonuses. And let's just stipulate that they thought that they deserved bonuses. What's the two things that a superintendent is supposed to do? They're supposed to be in charge of the money and the facilities. Well, the facilities are in a shambles, and they were in a budget deficit. So why would anyone get a bonus?
Okay, all right, I got you there. Do you want to say anything about that, Paul?
yeah, I can't agree more with him, and I believe that we have moved forward and put the right people into position to help us move forward as time is telling and will continue to tell, with the schools in a financial upswing, if you will, compared to what they were 3 years ago.
Oh, there's a lot of momentum. And Paul, let me tell you something. I think that karma will win out. I'm a believer in the karma train. So those two individuals, although they may have thought they got away with something, they really didn't get away with anything. Because I truly believe
I can't agree more with you, Dave.
They'll get theirs.
You know, you can't agree more with Kuziak, and you know, he's pretty adept when it comes to looking at political situations in the public realm. But you know what, Paul? He's not all that good at picking basketball games, is he?
No, that's one of the reasons I wanted to call. I just wanted to let him know I'm really glad that Loyola decided to get on that bus against Miami that day.
Yeah, you know what? I could tell you one thing. If I was,
they don't even get on it.
If I was the coach, if you look at the last 4 possessions that Miami had, that coach should no longer have a job. I watched that game. I watched that entire game. Miami had that game in their hands, and their last 4 possessions were the worst shots that you possibly could take. But that's because you have Jim Laurinaitis or whatever his name is. That's a terrible coach. They got out coached at the end. They never even should have had an opportunity to take a shot to win the game.
Hold on, Kuz. He's right. You've been way wrong, man. Hold on. Kansas State, you were wrong. You said that about Miami. Miami's going to kill them.
They've got. Look, they are a very good team. When I watched the Kansas State game, every single person on the floor touched the ball every time down. And they moved the ball better with the pass and dribble, and they have gained momentum after that kid hit the shot against Miami, and they're in the Final Four. And you know what? I think they're going to play well against Michigan. But that's a B game compared to last Saturday. That was an A game between
North Carolina.
No. Duke and Kansas was a varsity game, and Loyola was a JV game.
Okay, now you
compared to that game.
Hold on a second. Paul, the reason that this is so important is that Kuz really is, and I will give you kudos here. Kuz, you could be a color analyst at the highest level in America, and everybody knows that. You're a great basketball analyst. When you do a game, our numbers go way up just because you're doing the game, and everybody understands it. You're better even than Pagati, and he's right there with it. But in terms of picking games, Paul, he's losing a little credibility, don't you
2
think?
years ago, I had Syracuse.
Wait
in the
a
Final
Second.
Four.
I asked Paul a question, not you. What do you
Jim,
think,
I'll
Paul?
put it to you this way. If I wasn't in a meeting that day that he was on 2 Thursdays ago, when he put the offer up for some money to be laid down on that game, I would have called him privately and done it. But I was in a meeting.
Thanks for bringing it.
I-
Thanks for
I-
bringing it up, Paul.
I
I'll
missed
see
one.
ya.
I admit it. I
missed
missed one.
You've been missing them all. Coos, stick
years
to
ago,
what you do well.
2 years ago, I had all 4 teams in the Final Four.
No, Coos, somebody comes down and a kid drives down and they get the ball stolen. You can look at the defense and the offense, and you can say why that ball was stolen. You can say where the momentum is. You can describe a game. Honestly, Sam did a game with you, and he's like,
they won because the guy hit the
Sam
shot.
Michael over here has done a lot of games, and he finally did a game with you. And he goes, man, Jim, I really understand what you're talking about. I go, what do you mean? He goes, well, when you do a game with Coos, it's really easy because, A, he knows the game better than you do, and all you got to do is say a few words, and he'll just take it and describe everything. And our listeners appreciate that. When you and I did the Lake Central games, and I mean, people were telling me, man, that was top-of-the-line broadcasting. But when it comes to picking games, just stay out of it. Just stay to the analysis of the game.
Because I missed one?
Oh, you've done that over the years. Hey, he's Dave Kuziak, great basketball color analyst, just a great commentator, a horrible predictor of basketball
That's why I
games.
don't call the bookie. I haven't called the bookie in 25 years.
Hey, he pays for this time with Kuziak Construction. I'm out. He's in. Bye.